Chapter 633. Qin Hao's action was undoubtedly a provocation to him. It made the seventh elder of the inner sect, the flaming old man, lose face. 7 waves of absolute death, go! The flaming old man roared like a lion. He didn't think too much and used his best skill. In his opinion, Qin Hao would fall into the water if he walked 100 meters. He would also fall into the water if he walked 30 meters. It wouldn't change anything. It was better for him to die early so that he wouldn't waste his time. This was the flaming old man's side that was even more heartless than the other inner sect elders. He released his monstrous flaming vital qi. His hair stood on end and his vital qi poured into the blue soul-locking stone. Visible ripples appeared on the soul-locking stone under his palm. Each ripple was stronger than the last. It swept toward Qin Hao one after another. When the first ripple came, it dissipated in front of Qin Hao's chest just like before. Qin Hao stepped out of the 30-meter range as he wished and broke the curse of the 7th wood. When the second wave came, Qin Hao stepped out of the 35-meter range. When the third wave came, he stepped out of the 40-meter range. The 4th wave, the 5th wave, the 6th wave, until the 7th wave, it didn't affect Qin Hao at all. He easily stepped out of the 100-meter range and finished half of the wood. How is this possible? The flaming old man's expression couldn't be more shocked. It was as if he had lost his soul. The scene in front of him was shocking. The 7 waves of absolute death that he poured into the soul-locking stone didn't affect Qin Hao at all. On the contrary, Qin Hao stepped out of the 100-meter range. It should be known that when the last wave of the 7 waves of absolute death fell, the mental interference was as strong as the 11th pin. Even so, it couldn't stop Qin Hao's footstep. It couldn't even make him frown. How high was the level of Qin Hao's mental power? While the flaming old man was in a daze, the other contestants in the arena were in a terrible situation. First was the large wooden plank under the supervision of the first elder. The group of people walking in the front was 40 meters away. The people leading this group were Bai Lang, Hao Yuduo and Hao Youqiang. Immediately, a blue ripple swept over and enveloped them. The 3 of them instantly fell into a state of confusion. Their heads felt like they were about to split open. They hugged their heads and howled hoarsely. Their eyes were bloodshot as if millions of ants were gnawing on their brains. Their footsteps were obstructed, making it difficult for them to move forward. What surprised Qin Hao was that the person walking in front of Bai Lang was actually Lin Feng. Lin Feng had reached the 9th level of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, and his spiritual power was at the 9th level. The blue ripples that covered a 40-meter radius of the wooden plank were probably due to the mental pressure of an 8th-rank cultivator. Therefore, although Lin Feng's speed was not as fast as before, he still persisted on moving forward. In front of Lin Feng were Nalan Li, Naransu, and Xiaogua. Xiaogua appeared to be calm and composed. However, Naransu and Nalan Li were like arrows at the end of their flight. Trapped in the ripple's interference, they felt as if their legs were tied up by 2 mountains. It was difficult for them to move forward. Their delicate bodies trembled. We seem to have reached our limit. Don't worry about us. Xiaogua, you should go. Nalan Li's body was surrounded by a faint, crystalline brilliance. It was a protective spiritual array. She was a spiritual array master, and mainly relied on the protection of the spiritual array to resist the interference of the soul-locking stone. Naransu also urged Xiaogua to leave. Although she was grateful that Xiaogua had helped to watch over them, she did not want to implicate others in the assessment. You guys take care. Little Li, do your best. Xiaogua gave Nalan Li an encouraging look. He really wanted to go with the other side, but he was afraid that if he helped too much, it would hurt the other side's self-esteem. So he clenched his teeth and chose to go alone. In reality, Xiaogua was currently walking in front of the large wooden board. At this moment, his speed had decreased by half. You've stepped out 50 meters. Good little brat, not bad. but the difficulty will increase from now on. Let's see how long you can last and if you can create a miracle." The great elder on the other side smiled. His hands shook the soul-locking stone and he increased his strength. So. In an instant, the soul-shrinking stone flickered and split into a group of wind blades, like a scimitar, cutting towards Qi Xiaoguo, who was at the forefront, bringing out the sound of breaking air, mixed in with the blue ripples. These curved blades covered a range of 50 to 100 meters. It indicated that within this range, not only would there be spiritual interference, there would also be attacks. This greatly increased the difficulty of the assessment. Strong bull demon body. Xiaoguo was not afraid at all. He shouted and summoned the giant bull demon's soul in his body. With the appearance of his soul, Xiaoguo's defense was quickly strengthened. He was not afraid of the wind blades. He covered his face with his arms. The wind blades created sparks on his arms and made clanking sounds. He bravely continued to move forward. At this moment, the same scene was happening on the other thin wooden boards. Lightning, ice arrows, earth awls, light blades, colorful and dazzling. The 10 great elders controlled the 10 soul-locking stones and attacked one after another. Among all the attacks, there was no doubt that the flaming old man of the 7th wood was the most violent. Not only was he violent, he was also the first person to attack Qin Hao within 30 meters. However, the 7 killing waves were all suppressed and disintegrated by Qin Hao's emperor-grade spirit. Ah, the first scream was heard. It was Tan Yong, the 6th on the heaven list. He ran 70 meters and was attacked by a water blade. He fell into the lake and lost the qualification to compete. Ah, the second scream. The 5th place on the heaven list, Tai Long, fell. His score was 75 meters. Then, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th screams followed one after another. Bai Lang, Hao Yu Duo, and Hao Youqiang on the big wooden board were attacked by the great elder's wind blades when they were 50 meters away. They had to concentrate on resisting the interference of the soul-locking stones and dodge the attacks at the same time. The difficulty suddenly increased. Bai Lang and Hao Yu Duo were unfortunately hit by 2 blades. Their bodies flew backward and slid into the water, and they stopped at 55 meters. As for the 8th place on the heaven list, Hao Youqiang was still struggling at this moment. Obviously, he could not hold on for long. However, beside him, Han Man was following closely. Although he was injured, he did not give up. His eyes were fixed on Lin Feng, Naransu, and Nalan Li. Even the new junior brother and sister did not give up. How can I, Han Man, admit defeat? Han Man kept encouraging himself. On the other side, after Tai Long, Tan Yong, and Fang Jinchang fell into the water, the only people left on the thin wooden board were Duan Shuelu, Rock Mountain, and Lin Pingji. Of course, there was also Qin Hao on the 7th wooden board. Including Xiaoguo, they were the top contestants in the entire inner courtyard. Similarly, they were the first batch of people to step out of the 100-meter range in the second round. All of them passed the 100-meter range. Ha ha ha, the 7 killing waves has appeared. Qin Hao, you will definitely fall into the lake. How can a newcomer like you defeat me, Lin Pingji? Lin Pingji saw the old man on fire take out his ultimate skill and was instantly happy. In the past, no one could avoid the 7 killing waves. Qin Hao was not an exception. The result disappointed Lin Pingji. The 7 killing waves did not work on Qin Hao. At this moment, the great elder who was controlling the wooden board saw this and shook his hands on the soul-locking stones. Suddenly, the thin piece of wood under Lin Pingji's feet suddenly bounced up. With a rustle, it abruptly shot up. Lin Pingji's feet slipped, and he lost his balance. Just as he was feeling proud of himself, he fell into the water first. Damn, how did this happen? Lin Pingji's head popped out of the water and he wiped the water off his face. His face was extremely bitter. He thought that Qin Hao would stop at 30 meters, but in the end, you can be proud, but don't forget yourself. Congratulations, you got a good result in the 100-meter test. Qin Hao clasped his hands behind his back and walked past Lin Pingji with a carefree expression, continuing to move forward. After this step, he left Lin Pingji behind in front of him. Damn it, Lin Pingji's angry and unwilling roar came from behind. He had level 10 spiritual power, and if nothing went wrong, he could still move forward about 10 meters. His hands kept beating the water to vent his anger. His wish to step on Qin Hao's head had failed. However, what kind of trump card did Qin Hao use to ignore the old man on fire's 7 killing waves? Lin Pingji did not believe that Qin Hao's spiritual power was higher than his. Interesting, but you can't surpass me. At this time, Qin Hao was already 10 meters behind Yan Dashan. Yan Dashan jumped around and jumped 110 meters in front of the wooden board. Is that so? Qin Hao used his heaven-level technique, and his feet stepped on the water and wind. He suddenly exerted force, and almost as soon as Yan Dashan finished speaking, he was already on the same level as his opponent, running neck and neck. Damn it! Don't you dare! Yan Dashan's heart immediately reverberated with the thousands of alpacas of the prairie. How could he be overtaken by Qin Hao? Steady as a mountain, solid in all directions. With a roar, Yan Dashan had no choice but to use his source soul. In fact, even if there was no pressure from Qin Hao, he would have to use his source soul. The wooden board under his feet was the same as Lin Pingji's. It was also jumping randomly, and he had to use his source soul to suppress it. Otherwise, Yan Dashan could not continue to jump safely. 1. An earthy yellow energy spread out from Rock Mountain's body. Within this energy, an illusory mountain that seemed to be thousands of feet tall appeared and landed on the thin wood under his feet. It immediately suppressed the violent thin wood until it was as obedient as a grandson. Ha ha! I have a source soul, let's see how you can compete with me? What? Yan Dashan suppressed the wooden board with one move. Just as he was feeling happy, he looked again and saw that Qin Hao was already 10 meters in front of him. He did not know when, but Qin Hao had already overtaken him. At this moment, he was chasing closely behind Duan Shuelu. Fuck! Yan Dashan was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He had an 11th grade spiritual power and a source soul, so he could stabilize his mind and suppress the wooden board. What kind of capital did Qin Hao rely on? He could easily glide on the wooden board. His body movement was incomparably elegant, just like his ancestors flying. Yan Dashan was not satisfied. This is the end for you. On the other side of Yan Dashan, an old man's eyes narrowed. He increased the power of his palm and controlled the soul-locking stone to shoot out thousands of blue light. It was like a tsunami erupting. With a wong sound, it swept over. Boom! The blue light hit Yan Dashan's chest. After this power entered his body, it went straight to his brain. Yan Dashan's skull was almost opened, making him lose his mind and let out a wild howl. The source soul that had just been summoned collapsed and dissipated into smoke. Then, the wooden board under his feet bounced. Putong! Yan Dashan flew 100 meters high and heavily fell into the lake. The result was 110 meters. Humph, 7th Elder, how long are you going to be absent-minded? Are you really going to let Qin Hao win? In the range of 130 meters, Duan Shuelu shouted to the shore. Qin Hao was right behind him, making Duan Shuelu and Yan Dashan feel a strong sense of crisis. At this moment, it was all because the 7th Elder was absent-minded. It seemed that he had not recovered from the failure of the 7-killing wave. What Duan Shuelu needed to do was to wake up the confused 7th Elder. Oh, when did Qin Hao jump to 120 meters? Why didn't the wooden board under my control jump? The 7th Elder shouted anxiously on the shore. Seeing that Qin Hao was flying over, he was finally awakened by Duan Shuelu's shout. Chapter 634. It doesn't matter. I'll make it jump now. The flaming old man gritted his teeth and made up his mind. He stepped on the ground heavily. The soul-locking stone was shaken. The seventh wood felt it and immediately jumped up and down, swinging around like a spring. This time, Qin Hao must fall into the water. This was the confidence of the seventh patriarch. When he stepped into the range of 120 meters, the interference power of the soul-locking stone could be increased to the 12th level. With the 12th level interference power and the large swinging of the fine wood, if Qin Hao did not fall into the water, then the seventh patriarch was simply a dog. But his view was broken again. Qin Hao's posture was still elegant, as if he was walking on the ground. With the swinging of the fine wood, he felt as if he was walking on the wave. He seemed to be at ease with his hands clasped behind his back. From the beginning to the end, there was not the slightest ripple in his eyes. He had always been calm and collected. He did not see Qin Hao use any special methods, nor did he see him show any amazing spiritual power. He only used a set of strange footwork to subdue the flaming old man. This scene could be described as shocking. This guy is too evil. Damn it. Duan Shuelu finally felt the great pressure. His back was dripping with sweat. Qin Hao seemed to have no limit. His performance was unfathomable. Duan Shuelu decided not to pay attention to him. He needed to focus on sprinting. He must open the distance between him and Qin Hao as soon as possible. Because he once said that if Qin Hao was 10 meters behind him, Duan Shuelu would admit that he was the loser. He could not let himself slap his own face. But at present, Duan Shuelu had already slapped his own face. At the beginning, Qin Hao stood on the shore indifferently. Duan Shuelu showed contempt for him. In the blink of an eye, he surpassed Lin Pingji and suppressed the mountain. Now, he was firmly behind Duan Shuelu. Qin Hao was as evil as a ghost, which made Duan Shuelu panic and embarrassed. He decided to use the power of his original soul. At this moment, the other contestants' matches were almost over. On the big wooden board, Qi Xiaogua faced the wind blades and moved forward for more than 120 meters. In the end, she couldn't resist anymore, so she used her trump card and absorbed the bull's soul into her body. Relying on the super-strong defense after the transformation, she moved forward another 50 meters with difficulty. Finally, she reached a super-long distance of 170 meters. He was left far behind. He was so tired that he was paralyzed on the ground. The result of 170 meters was the current first place, but that was only for now. Nalan Li and her sister, Nalan Zhu, had great perseverance. Under the protection of the spirit array, the two of them persisted for 120 meters before collapsing to the ground. This caused a small commotion and also surprised the head elder. This could be considered a small miracle in the inner courtyard. 90 meters. Hao Youqiang. After being exhausted, the crowd focused their attention on Duan Shuelu and Qin Hao, who were still in the match. Duan Shuelu was more focused on because he had already awakened the great river source spirit in his body. In an instant, the lake water around the second wood he was walking on began to churn. The lake water within 5 meters of him seemed to be boiling, with a lot of hot bubbles popping out. The great river behind him suppressed the interference of the soul-locking stone on the other side. Taking this opportunity, Duan Shuelu roared and raised his hands above his head. "Absorb the soul into my body." Wah! His body exploded into a puddle of water. As the water dissipated, his body turned into a transparent figure. This figure was extremely nimble. It reduced his weight and increased his curvature. Like an arrow, he flashed and pierced through the soul-locking stone's blue wave barrier. He charged forward as fast as lightning. Nothing. He rushed to the range of 170 meters. Then, he surpassed Xiaogua's result. At this moment, Duan Shuelyo's transparent figure stopped. His speed dropped instantly. With the water splashing, he revealed his real body and gasped for breath. Only 10 meters. Even if I have to crawl, I will break Yi Wuhan's record. He let out a hoarse roar. His legs trembled as he crawled. His hands were like pliers, firmly grasping the thin wood. No matter how the thin wood shook wildly, it did not shake him off. He was like a maggot climbing on the thin wood, slowly crawling forward. Every time he moved forward, his pupils became bigger and his forehead was dripping with sweat. He fell into the lake. This is too inspiring. Duan Shuelu is really extraordinary. Come on, senior brother Duan. You are still the Prince Charming in my heart. 5 meters left. Hold on. Break Yi Wuhan's record for our inner court. The other disciples were excited. They could not help admiring him, so they shouted in unison. These hot-blooded shouts immediately gave Duan Shuelu endless strength. He roared in his heart, "Look, I, Duan Shuelu, am still the first in the inner court. No one can shake my position. No one can, not even the heavens." 178 meters. 179 meters. 180 meters. He broke it. Senior brother Duan Shuelu broke Yi Wuhan's record and created a record of 1,801 millimeters. His fingernails are relatively long. The crowd counted silently, and then they began to cheer together. Ha ha ha, I, Duan Shuelu, finally broke the record. I created 1801 millimeters. Yi Wuhan from the cabinet, did you see that? Did you see his ancestors' fingernails? I am better than you. At this moment, Duan Shuelu clenched the thin wood, and he was so excited that he suddenly burst into tears. His efforts, his cultivation, and the hardships he had suffered finally paid off. Oh, sorry. You broke Yi Wuhan's record, but you didn't break Qin Hao's record. Since you are exhausted, this is the end. Just lie down. A very indecent voice came from behind. Then, Duan Shuelu saw Qin Hao with his hands behind his back. Qin Hao's graceful body movement passed the record of 1801 millimeters that he had set. Qin Hao was still calm. At this moment, he even took the time to look back and smile at Duan Shuelu, just like how Duan Shuelu looked back and sneered at Qin Hao at the beginning. His eyes were full of contempt. Puff! Duan Shuelu couldn't hold back the blood. His eyes turned black, and his hand holding the thin wood loosened. His body fell into the lake. His heart and dignity were broken. He used his soul, exhausted all his strength, and did not hesitate to break Yi Wuhan's record at the cost of crawling. He even created a new record. In this way, under Qin Hao's relaxed and cruel pace, he was suppressed by the cold and ruthless counterattack. However, Qin Hao was not as ecstatic as Duan Shuelu. He even didn't take it seriously. He still moved forward with his hands behind his back. Although he was moving forward, there was finally a trace of seriousness on his face. At this time, the blue interference coming from the front had reached the 13th level. It was equivalent to the limit of the 13th floor that Qin Hao had climbed in the suppressing demon tower. Of course, it was just the previous limit. Now Qin Hao was stronger than before. As his body became stronger and his realm deepened, the spiritual power he could release at will was of a higher level. As for how high it was, Qin Hao couldn't guarantee, so Qin Hao decided to give it a try. Damn, no way! Qin Hao also broke Yi Wuhan's record. Not only did he break Yi Wuhan's record, but he also surpassed Duan Shuelu. Duan Shuelu was so angry that he vomited blood. Qin Hao didn't mean to stop. Not only did he not stop, but his body movement is still as cool as before. This person is a monster. Chapter 635. That's right. Perhaps it was because he used too much strength, but a sharp-eyed disciple noticed that under the flaming old man's palm, the seventh stone began to crack. With every step Qin Hao took, more and more cracks appeared, and there were already signs of the stone breaking. Old Seven, stop right now. Stop right now. The first elder cried out anxiously when he saw the situation. If the seventh elder and Qin Hao fought and caused the soul-locking stone to disintegrate, it would be terrible. How can I stop? I absolutely cannot lose to this brat. Otherwise, where will I, the seventh elder, put my face? Qin Hao, get into the lake. The seventh elder was in a frenzy. He had completely forgotten that this was a competition between the inner courtyard students. He spontaneously believed that it was a fight between him and Qin Hao. He, the seventh elder, definitely could not lose to this young lad before him. Fire flicking divine skill, go. Level 15 spiritual power, go. I will definitely make Qin Hao fall into the lake to vent my anger. The seventh elder was unable to extricate himself from the fight with Qin Hao. He forcefully increased the essence energy in his dantian and poured it into the soul-locking stone. Buzz! The soul-locking stone burst forth with the fiercest blue light ever. The blue light carried a power that could topple mountains and overturn seas and destroy everything. It swept towards Qin Hao like a raging wind. At the same time, the seventh elder continuously flicked flames from his right middle finger. These flames seemed small, but the power they contained was extremely terrifying. He was an inner courtyard elder with the cultivation of a level 7 Yuan monarch, yet he was actually fighting with his own student. If each flame hit someone, even someone as strong as Broken Flow would explode into pieces. This was no longer a competition. It was a murder. All the inner courtyard students broke out in cold sweat for Qin Hao. Level 15 spiritual power? Insignificant skill. Qin Hao was fearless as he brazenly faced the attack. The moment the blue light swept over, the dragon soul in Qin Hao's body was awakened. A layer of golden dragon scales suddenly appeared on the surface of Qin Hao's body, emitting a dazzling light. Qin Hao's physical strength increased tremendously at this moment. His emperor-grade spiritual power also reached its limit. 1. There was also a ripple visible to the naked eye that spread out in front of Qin Hao's chest and collided with the blue light in front of him. Instantly, an earth-shattering explosion resounded in the inner courtyard. Waves after waves of water shot up into the sky from the wide lake, and rain fell from the sky. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Qin Hao used the water wind steps and nimbly dodged the flame net that the seventh elder shot at him. The tip of his foot tapped on the thin wood, and his body steadily landed on the shore. There was not a single inner yard student on the shore. There were only 10 soul-locking stones and 10 lofty inner yard elders. Qin Hao was the only disciple. When Qin Hao's footsteps landed, the 10 soul-locking stones became 9. The seventh stone, controlled by the flaming old man, could no longer withstand the pressure of his yuan qi. With a loud explosion, it exploded into pieces and the treasure turned into trash. At this moment, the seventh elder fell to the ground without a care for his image. In front of Qin Hao, he fell into a daze. Silence. The scene fell silent again. After the battle between Qin Hao and the seventh elder, everyone widened their eyes and mouths in shock. The shock in their eyes was comparable to when Qin Hao sent the entire high platform flying in the first round. Broken! Broken! The soul-locking stone exploded the moment Qin Hao stepped on the shore. Even the seventh elder fell to the ground in defeat. It seems that he was at a disadvantage in the battle with Qin Hao. Oh my God! How high is Qin Hao's spiritual strength? He shattered the soul-locking stone and knocked the seventh elder down. What was the golden light that flashed on Qin Hao's body just now? I didn't see it clearly. It was too dazzling. A large number of students' legs trembled. The moment the dragon scale appeared, they had the urge to kneel down and submit. Thinking about it, that should be Qin Hao's trump card. As for what it was exactly, no one could see through it. It seemed mysterious and profound. Regardless, this time, Qin Hao had finally forced out a trace of his true strength. However, the price he paid was too terrible. He shattered a soul-locking stone and lost the seventh elder's face. As expected of Big Brother. His strength can't be measured by ordinary people's standard. His performance always exceeds everyone's expectations. Syogwa lay on the wooden plank powerlessly. Once again, he bowed and gasped in admiration. He used all his skills. Even when he absorbed his soul into his body, he could only withstand the spiritual pressure of a rank 13 and stopped at 170 meters. In his opinion, Qin Hao's goal should be to break the record set by Yi Wuhan. However, who would have thought that Qin Hao would shatter the soul-locking stone and make the seventh elder lose face and be forced to the ground? Brother Qin Hao is too strong. He won. After recovering from the shock, Nayland Li was the first to cheer excitedly. Suddenly, the cheers spread like a plague, instantly stirring up the crowd. A tsunami of cheers sounded in the inner yard. After Yi Wuhan, Qin Hao had once again set a new record in the inner yard. It was also a new and supreme record. Perhaps no one would be able to break this record in the next 1,000 years. Who could be strong enough to shatter the soul-locking stone? Alas, the first place of the second round, Qin Hao. At this point, the chief elder had no choice but to announce the result of the competition. However, when he saw the shattered blue pieces on the ground, his heart was in pain. The seventh elder was like a swordsman who had lost a sword battle. He looked at Qin Hao and humbly asked for advice. "Boy, can you tell old man how high the spiritual grade you just released was?" "Haha, it's only rank 18. It's not worth mentioning," Qin Hao answered truthfully with his hands behind his back. When dragon scales appeared on the surface of his body, the endurance of his body was just enough to adapt to the strength of rank 18 spiritual grade. Shattering a rank 15 soul-locking stone was not a problem at all. Rank 18. Rank 18. When the seventh elder heard this, his heartbeat sped up. He quickly covered his chest with his hand and his eyes rolled up in excitement. The three words, rank 18, exploded in the field like a bomb, causing a great uproar. Looking at the whole of Qiangbin, no one could have a higher spiritual grade than Qin Hao. Yi Wuhan could not, the rest of the cabinet could not, and Duan Shuelu could not. Rank 18, this was the highest spiritual grade among the disciples of Qi Yang in hundreds of years. "Ha, good, we want this disciple of yours. You don't need to be in the top 3 in the third round. As long as you are in the top 10, you will become a new member of the cabinet." The chief elder's decadence was swept away. Shattering one soul-locking stone was nothing. Shattering 10 soul-locking stones in exchange for a disciple with rank 18 spiritual grade was a great deal. And the condition he offered to Qin Hao was that as long as he was in the top 10, he would become a disciple of the cabinet. This was undoubtedly the first precedent of selecting a disciple of the cabinet. In the past, no matter who entered the cabinet, they had to be in the top 3 in the third round of the martial arts competition. You have rank 18 spiritual grade, and your physical saint force is so amazing. Old man's defeat is not undeserved. The new generation excels the old, and each generation is stronger than the previous. I believe that you are more excellent than Yi Wuhan in the cabinet. In the future, you can completely replace him and become the spokesperson of the whole Qiangbin. The seventh elder was full of praise. It seemed that it was his honor to be defeated by a genius like Qin Hao. "The person who can replace Yi Wuhan can only be me, Duan Shuelu. Qin Hao, you and I are absolutely irreconcilable." Chapter 636. Not to mention in Qiangbin, in the 4 academies and even in the land of Western Liang, a level 18 spiritual strength could be regarded as the most outstanding one. If Qin Hao was placed in the richest East continent, his aptitude could be rated as first class. As time passed, the gap between him and Duan Shuelu would be wider and wider. At that time, it would be difficult to kill Duan Shuelu, or even be killed by him. Therefore, Qin Hao could not be allowed to rise. He had to be strangled in the cradle. Irreconcilable. You said it once in the first stage, and now you say it again. I have to advise you that those who used to be my irreconcilable enemies are all dead. Qin Hao naturally did not take a level 9 heavenly saint seriously. However, Duan Shuelu provoked him again and again, so he could not be presumptuous. Cut the crap. Do you dare to sign the life and death contract and fight with me in the arena? The living will enter the cabinet. The dead will be reduced to rubble. Duan Shuelu jumped up from the lake. At this moment, water flowed on his body and absorbed the water. His clothes dried automatically. He said confidently, "Why not?" Qin Hao flicked his sleeves and replied coldly. He could not help sneering in his heart. It turned out that Duan Shuelio's real intention was to rob him of his place in the cabinet. This person was narrow-minded and narrow-minded. He was the kind of villain who could not bear to see others stronger than himself. And me, Qin Hao? Do you dare to sign the life and death contract with me, Rock Mountain? Rock Mountain clenched his fists and walked to the shore. He said in a lifeless voice, "If you want to die, I don't mind giving you a coffin." Qin Hao took it. "Ha ha ha, you are really boastful. Although your body is strong, it does not mean that your strength is strong. Even if you have level 18 spiritual strength, in the current situation, killing you is as easy as killing a chicken. This life and death contract, count me in." Lin Pingji carried a long sword on his back and walked up to Qin Hao in a provocative manner. His eyes seemed to be saying, "I'll say it again. I, Lin Pingji, will definitely step on Qin Hao's head and make you my stepping stone. Since that's the case, I'll give the three of you a chance to be awesome. Come at me together." Qin Hao didn't say anything else. He glanced at the Grand Elder and told him to hurry up and proceed to the third trial. After the competition, Qin Hao was in a hurry to find Hai Laosi. He wanted to see how Xiaolei and Xiaojun were settling down, as well as Aku. Although Aku was a half-blood, he still needed to drink human blood to survive. She didn't want to cause any trouble. Wow, today's competition is really rare. The top 3 on the Heaven leaderboard have all chosen to challenge Qin Hao. Qin Hao also asked Duan Shuelu, Mountain Rock and Lin Pingji to fight together. It seems that Qin Hao is quite capable, but his tone is too arrogant. He doesn't put anyone in his eyes at all. He actually challenged 3 people by himself. So what if he has level 18 spiritual strength? Arrogant people will always pay the price for their stupidity. He just entered the inner yard less than half a day ago. He hasn't had time to cultivate and enhance his strength. Challenging the top 3 on the Heaven leaderboard to a life and death battle is undoubtedly the same as courting death. The inner yard immediately exploded. The students were discussing spiritedly. None of them were optimistic about Qin Hao. In their eyes, Qin Hao had won 2 trials in a row. Undoubtedly, his self-confidence had inflated to the sky. That was why he was so arrogant. The result of being arrogant was death, and he deserved to die. I won't allow your life and death battle. At this time, the Grand Elder waved his hand and shouted majestically, forcibly interrupting the competition. As the students discussed, Qin Hao's talent was undoubtedly a genius among geniuses. This was an indisputable fact. But geniuses also needed to cultivate. For example, if a newborn baby challenged a warrior, no matter how strong the baby's talent was, death was the only outcome. The baby's hair was not yet fully grown. He couldn't even walk. Did he have the strength to hold a saber? Qin Hao belonged to this kind of person. Once he was proud, his self-confidence would inflate. Even at this moment, the Grand Elder decided to re-examine Qin Hao's personality problem for the second time. People who were too arrogant didn't live long. They would easily attract disasters. The cabinet didn't want them. Congratulations, you saved your life. Duan Shuelu looked at the Grand Elder with dissatisfaction. The Grand Elder was obviously protecting Qin Hao. Qin Hao, don't be a coward if you have the guts. Accept our challenge. Rock Mountain shouted angrily, unwilling to give up. You can hide today, but can you hide tomorrow? It's good if you agree now. If you don't agree, hee. At this point, Lin Pingji stared at Xiaogua and Nalan Li like a venomous snake. He licked his lips sinisterly. His intention was clear. He would find trouble with Xiaogua and Nalan Li. He would even make everyone related to Qin Hao die mysteriously. After all, there would be disciples dying mysteriously every day in the inner yard. Bastard, big brother, don't be fooled by them. You are no match for them now. Xiaogua stood up and shouted angrily. He also didn't believe that Qin Hao's real combat strength could surpass the three of them. After all, the weakest of the three was a level 3 heaven sage. Duan Shuelu was only half a step away from becoming a Yuan king. At most, I won't attend this school. Brother Qin Hao, don't fight with these 3 shameless people, Nalan Li said. She was so angry that her chest puffed up. Great Elder, as you can see, it's not that I'm arrogant. It's just that some people want a yard after taking an inch. They are lawless like mad dogs. If I go to the inner yard with you, my brother and sister will die in the inner yard in the next second. I have to fight in the life and death battle. If you don't hurry, my people will be safe in the inner yard. Qin Hao looked at the great elder resolutely. He could only leave with peace of mind after getting rid of these 3 troublemakers. Sigh, you are too irrational and muddle-headed. You are destroying your own future. The great elder had no choice but to sigh. With a wave of his hand, the water level of the lake started to fall. The 2 broken pieces of the ground made a rumbling sound and merged together again. Indeed, even though he was the great elder of the inner yard, he couldn't keep watching over the safety of a few inner yard disciples all day for Qin Hao. He didn't have the time or effort. However, Qin Hao's move was extremely stupid. If he could swallow his anger and cultivate for a year or so before fighting in the life and death battle, he would have a better chance of winning. What a pity, what a pity! The great elder waved his hand again. Suddenly, a battle stage protruded from the ground and stood in the middle of the crowd, indicating the start of the 3rd round. The battle stage assessed the actual combat ability of the disciples. Whoever was stronger would naturally be ranked higher. Although there would occasionally be people who would focus on the main point, most of them would stop there. However, there were also life and death battles in the battle stage. Once the 2 sides signed the life and death agreement, even the elders couldn't interfere. Therefore, when Qin Hao stepped on the battle stage, he had to resign himself to fate. The great elder also felt hatred in his heart. Why didn't Qin Hao listen to his kind words and let down his good intentions? In order to protect my brother and fight to the death, if it's stupid, I, Qin Hao, would rather be stupid for the rest of my life. If I have to sacrifice the safety of my family in exchange for the qualification to live, I, Qin Hao, would rather not have this future. Qin Hao also laughed at the great elder's so-called good intentions. Compromise? Sorry, that was not Denda's style. Good spirit, junior brother Qin Hao. I, Han Man, have never admired anyone in the inner yard. Yi Wuhan is not qualified for my admiration, but today, I admire you. Han Man gave Qin Hao a thumbs up. Swish, swish, swish. Below the stage, thumbs were raised one after another to Qin Hao's position. At the beginning, everyone admired Qin Hao's potential. At this moment, they were all convinced by his personality charm. I'll go first in the 1st round. Qin Hao, come on the stage and die. While speaking, Lin Pingji did not give Duan Shuelu and Rock Mountain a chance to respond. With a swish, he rushed to the fighting ring and pointed at Qin Hao below provocatively. A smile appeared on Lin Pingji's face. He only needed 1 sword strike to kill Qin Hao. If Duan Shuelu fought, Lin Pingji would not have a chance to perform. Of course, he also had to guard against Qin Hao's close combat ability. His opponent's saint strength was very strong. Lin Pingji was not confident that he could block Qin Hao's punch. He decided to distance himself and kill with sword chi. Damn it, Lin Pingji, this bastard, took advantage of me. Rock Mountain was very annoyed and his eyes were filled with hatred. If Qin Hao was killed by Lin Pingji, then he would kill Lin Pingji to vent his hatred. Well, let Lin Pingji test Qin Hao's real strength with his Bixia swordsmanship. Duan Shuelu was very careful. From the beginning until the end, Qin Hao had never revealed his cultivation, and the exact extent of his strength was still a mystery until now. Everyone only knew that his saint's strength was very strong. As for the golden light that flashed by, Duan Shuelu did not see clearly what the golden light was. Before I attack, I'll give you one last chance. Come at me together. Otherwise, you will die faster and more embarrassing. Qin Hao slowly went to the fighting ring. His seemingly calm face revealed his killing intent. They dared to threaten Xiaogua and Nailanli. These three people deserved to die. Ha ha ha, Qin Hao, do you really think you are invincible? Whipping away the 9th layer holy stone, shattering the soul-locking stone, pinning down the 7th elder, and releasing 18th tier spiritual energy. What are all of these? In front of our Lin family's Bixia swordplay, you are like a child. Puff! Lin Pingji did not finish his words. Suddenly, a beam of light penetrated the field and pierced Lin Pingji's throat, stopping his words. You talk too much. Qin Hao walked along the stone steps and finally stepped on the stage. He said expressionlessly. His right index finger was glowing. The beam of light that penetrated the field was Qin Hao's instantaneous golden finger. Fast, incomparably fast. Killing in the blink of an eye. You, plop. Lin Pingji covered his throat and fell to the ground. Blood flowed out from his body and flowed down the stage. What? One move. This scene was undoubtedly shocking, causing the spectating students below the stage to be dumbfounded. They did not even see how Qin Hao attacked, nor did they feel the fluctuation of primordial qi from Qin Hao. It was too fast. There was no time to react. Perhaps only Lin Pingji, who was hit, could fully understand the horror of Qin Hao. Unfortunately, he would never have a chance to speak. You bastard, you didn't even say anything before attacking. Lin Pingji hasn't even drawn his sword yet, and you've already launched a sneak attack. Despicable and shameless to the extreme. After the shock, Rock Mountain was the first to point at Qin Hao and scold him. He felt that it was not worth it for Lin Pingji. After all, he died under Qin Hao's finger before he could use his powerful Bixia swordsmanship. At the same time, this was what everyone thought as well. They thought that Qin Hao had an unfair advantage. Chapter 637. You are so presumptuous. Yan Dashan was so angry that he stamped his feet, and the stone floor under his feet cracked. He looked at Duan Shuelu and said, Duan Shuelu, I will fight in the second round. Do you have any objections? Of course, if you give up such a wonderful opportunity to kill Qin Hao, I will give you 1,000 earth crystals. Yan Dashan was determined to avenge his two cousins. Okay. Duan Shuelu unexpectedly nodded with a treacherous smile. He did not compete with Yan Dashan for the chance to fight. Although Lin Pingji's strength was not in his eyes, he was not a mediocre person. He was killed by Qin Hao without any precautions. No, it was not that Lin Pingji did not take precautions, but that it was too late. Qin Hao's speed was too fast. Duan Shuelu also remembered this point in his heart. He decided to let Yan Dashan fight again, and it would be best to force Qin Hao to use his trump card. 8th level Heavenly Saint, don't let me down. Duan Shuelyo's eyes were gloomy, and he said to Yan Dashan with a sarcastic tone, Don't look down on me. I won't let you down. I will only make you envious. Yan Dashan was ridiculed, and his anger increased by 70%. He rubbed his huge fist and stepped on the stage. Brother Qin Hao, you have to be careful. Nalan Li's tender little face was filled with worry. Yen Dashan was much stronger than Lin Pingji, and this battle was very risky. Don't worry, I believe my brother has a way to deal with it. Even if he can't win, he will not be killed. Xiaogua calmed down at this moment. After watching the first battle, Qin Hao's strength made Xiaogua regain his confidence. He was no longer worried, and there was even a trace of excitement. He was eager to see Qin Hao's real skills. Qin Hao disappeared for 2 months, and no one knew where he went. This time, his momentum was extremely strong, and his spiritual power was greatly improved. Xiaogua firmly believed that Qin Hao must have made breakthroughs in other aspects, so he was full of curiosity. Brat, if you admit defeat now, I guarantee with my status as the Great Elder that I will spare your life. The Great Elder raised his head and said. Yen Shan was not someone Lin Pingji could compare to. The difference between a 3rd-level heavenly sage and an 8th-level heavenly sage was not small. You only have one chance to make a move. Qin Hao ignored the first elder's advice and pointed at Rock Mountain with a stern face. Rock Mountain disapprovingly spat at Lin Pingji. Then he kicked Lin Pingji's corpse and kicked it off the stage. The students below the stage quickly moved away. Looking at Lin Pingji's corpse, they shook their heads and sighed. In any case, this person was ranked 3rd in the previous heaven roll. Now that he was defeated, he was as cheap as an ant. Immediately after, the gazes of the students returned to the battle arena, attracted by the second battle. Everyone, guess who will win and who will die this time? It's hard to say. Qin Hao still hasn't shown his true strength. He's a little unfathomable. Didn't you hear what he said? Yen Shan only has one chance to make a move. After one move, he must be confident that he can kill him. Isn't this too impossible? If Qin Hao said that he will win, I would believe it. However, it is absolutely impossible for him to kill a 8th-level heavenly sage, Yen Shan, in one move. That's right. Even Duan Shuelu, who is a peak heavenly sage, would not dare to be so arrogant as to kill Yen Shan in one move. The students whispered to each other. After discussing, they shook their heads repeatedly. Duan Shuelu heard this but was not angry. In fact, these disciples were right. He was indeed not confident that he could kill Yen Shan in one move. After all, Yen Shan was an elite with an essence soul. The difference between an essence soul elite and an ordinary elite could not be mentioned in the same breath. Even a 1st-level Yuan monarch would not be able to defeat Yen Shan, who had an essence soul, in one move. This lad is quite arrogant. Let's see what makes him so arrogant. Duan Shuelu held his breath and stared at the battle arena without blinking. This time, he had to see through Qin Hao's cultivation. One move is enough to kill you. Pay with your lives for my 2 cousins. Yen Shan shouted calmly. His aura soared to the sky. The primordial qi around him surged and spread. The phantom of a mountain appeared behind him. He used his trump card as soon as he attacked. After awakening his soul, Rock Mountain raised both his palms to the sky and channeled his level 8 saint energy into the mountain above his head, causing the illusory mountain to gradually materialize. It shone with a dark black stone luster and looked majestic, shaking the earth. The air seemed to become extremely oppressive at this moment, making people feel stuffy. Even if they were standing below the battle arena, the thousands of students could deeply feel the suffocating pressure on the battle arena. Although he is weaker than me by 1 realm, to break Yen Shan's attack, I have to use at least 80% of my strength to win. Of course, if I use all my strength, I can easily defeat him. Duan Shuelu nodded. Yen Shan's essence soul was indeed extraordinary. The reason why he did not say that he would kill Yen Shan but only defeat him was that Duan Shuelu could not kill Yen Shan without paying a price. It was even more impossible for Qin Hao to do so. I'll kill you in one hit. Go, 10,000 heaven shaking. With a wild roar, Yen Shan's muscles bulged. The veins on his arms congealed. The towering mountain above his head was thrown at Qin Hao. 1. The heavy mountain's shadow fell down. It seemed like it could smash the arena in one hit. The scene was shocking. At this time, many students could not help but step back. Their faces were filled with shock. They no longer believed that Qin Hao could defeat Yan Shan in one hit. Instead, it was more likely that Yan Shan could kill Qin Hao. The Essence Soul's attack is not bad. It's strong enough. Unfortunately, my fist is stronger than yours. With a low groan, Qin Hao poured his qi into his right fist. Suddenly, a golden light flashed on his arm. The light was arranged in a very regular pattern, like scales, but it also revealed a domineering majesty. At the same time, the art of endless samsara was running. The dragon whirlpool technique was overlaying. The primordial qi in his meridians changed. Just as Mount Tai was about to fall, Qin Hao punched out. It was unstoppable. Boom! The fist turned into a dragon that swallowed the sky. The dragon's roar reverberated in all directions, making all living things fearful. The dragon formed by the fist was like a drill that rose into the sky. It drilled into the bottom of the mountain and came out from the top of the mountain. It pierced through the entire mountain. The towering mountain exploded and disintegrated, turning into nothingness in front of everyone. This scene was extremely shocking. With a single punch, he dispersed the shadows that were attacking him, revealing the clear sky. Oh my God, Qin Hao really broke Yan Shan's Essence Soul attack in one hit. That golden glow appeared again. What is it? Why do I have the urge to kneel down? It's completely out of my control. The disciples were terrified. Because of the unknown, their fear was even stronger. However, the second appearance of the dragon soul did not mean that others did not see it clearly. At least the 10 great elders of the inner pavilion and Duan Shuelu, who was about to become a Yuan monarch, saw some clues. The golden glow that covered Qin Hao's arm was a layer of scales. It was an extremely high-end and noble scale that looked down on all living things. Ha ha, a mere level 5 heavenly saint. I thought you were unfathomable. So this is it. So this is it. Qin Hao, you are dead this time. Duan Shuelu laughed maniacally. The moment Qin Hao raised his aura and punched, Duan Shuelu accurately grasped his realm. He was only a level 5 heavenly saint. However, Qin Hao's technique was very special. It could gather all the essence energy in his body at one point, creating a penetrating strength that ordinary people could not achieve. Presumably, Qin Hao's punch was at least a set of high-tier Earth-rank fist arts, and this set of fist arts could unleash the might of a flying dragon, which imperceptibly increased the power of his fist arts. It also gave Qin Hao the ability to kill enemies above his level. Duan Shuelu believed that Qin Hao would win this round. However, defeating Yan Shan, who was a level 8 heavenly saint, was obviously Qin Hao's limit. He was no match for Duan Shuelu, who was a peak heavenly saint. Moreover, Duan Shuelio's power was comparable to that of a level 1 Yuan monarch or even stronger. Therefore, Qin Hao had to die in the hands of Duan Shuelu. Duan Shuelu did not believe that the golden glow was Qin Hao's essence soul. Big Brother is so powerful, Xiaogua said in a daze. Duan Shuelu had blasted away the attack of an essence soul expert with one punch. If it had been Xiaogua, he would not have been able to withstand Qin Hao's punch if he had released the defense of the bull demon body. There was no suspense in the second round. Yan Shan's only outcome was to lose. How is this possible? On the stage, Yan Shan looked at the mountain that had turned into light foam and dissipated in the air. It was as if Qin Hao had destroyed his chest. I said that you only have one chance to make a move. Now, it's my turn to attack. Qin Hao shouted calmly. Essence Qi floated around his body as he formed a second punch. At this moment, the golden glow covered his right fist again, exuding a destructive power. The roar of a dragon reverberated in the arena. You Yen Shan pointed at Qin Hao, whose aura was rising, and retreated in horror. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and shouted, "Absorb the soul into the body." Buzz. The illusory mountain behind him turned into white smoke and drilled into his back. His defensive power began to rise steadily, and a layer of black rock-like luster appeared on the surface of his body, making the strong rock mountain look like a sturdy iron bucket. Breaking my attack doesn't mean that you can break my defense. I can't win against you, but you can't win against me either. Ha ha. Qin Hao, let's continue this battle of attrition. Yen Shan laughed confidently. Since he could not attack, he would focus on defense. With the protection of the mountain essence soul, he did not believe that Qin Hao could break through his body. Unless Qin Hao had the strength of a level 9 heavenly saint. Or a source spirit. I've said it before, I'll defeat you with a single punch. Coincidentally, Qin Hao had the strength of a peak heavenly saint, and he also had a source spirit. Not just a single source spirit, but two. So he chose to speak with facts and sent out a fist at his opponent. Flame Dragon Fist. Roar! The flying dragon appeared again, rolling up waves of flames as it flew under Qin Hao's fist. With a hong-long sound, it exploded on Yen Shan's chest. This punch was extremely heavy. Yen Dashan spat out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying 100 feet into the air. He slammed into the ground, creating a human-shaped crater. When he landed, there was a bloody hole in his chest, and all of his organs had been shattered. You really are pitiful. Qin Hao shook his head. Yen Shan's attack could not block his fist, but could his defense block it? It was worth mentioning that his mountain essence soul was not only 1 or 2 levels lower than Qin Yun's stone essence soul, it was 5 or 6 levels lower. Qin Yun's stone essence soul represented all kinds of rocks, and Yen Shan's mountain essence soul was much smaller. You despicable bastard! Yen Shan was not dead yet. He pointed at Qin Hao's nose and said in an unwilling voice. Chapter 638. Ha ha! Ridiculous, who do you think I, Rocky Mountain, am? I am a rare super genius of the family. Although I lost this battle, the family will be proud of me, ha ha ha. Rocky Mountain looked at the sky, his laughter gradually weakening. Since Rocky Mountain was born, why was Qin Hao born? It seems that no one in the cabinet will avenge you. Qin Hao sighed. Although he was not afraid, not being able to kill them all was still a very disgusting thing. As for you, although you lost, I'm sorry, but your family will only feel shame. A super genius like you only appeared in 100 years, but you couldn't even block a punch from me. What was the point of you being born? You also have a face. You said you lost honorably? Pooh. Rocky Mountain's blood rushed to his heart, and he died on the arena. Big Brother actually advanced to the 5th rank Heavenly Sage. He really broke through. Xiaogua's eyes lit up, and his body trembled due to excitement. Although he could not see Qin Hao's trump card, he could see the other party's realm. This speed of improvement could be said to be terrifying. After not seeing each other for 2 months, Xiaogua had stepped into the profound sage realm from the mortal sage realm. He was happy for a while, but Hao's realm was even higher, which was clearly a blow to him. This kid is not bad. His fighting talent is very strong. Old man is very satisfied. The great elder, who had previously accused Qin Hao of destroying his future, nodded again, his eyes full of appreciation. Using the strength of his whole body to condense one's strength to break through Rocky Mountain's defense, it was far beyond the fighting concept of ordinary disciples. In conclusion, it was also thanks to Qin Hao's special martial skills. The great elder was the same as Duan Shuelu. He simply thought that the golden light that erupted from Qin Hao's arm was a high-level cultivation technique. If this kid had an essence spirit, his achievements would be even higher. What a pity, what a pity! The great elder secretly shook his head. Since the start of the Heavenless tournament, it was completely clear that Qin Hao did not have an essence spirit. Perhaps he had already used it. He was just an ordinary person with superb agility, superb martial skills, and superb fighting talent. But by relying on these ordinary skills, he was able to defeat Yen Dashan, who had a 1 in 10,000 source spirit. He was a pitiful, respectable, and fearful junior. Heavens, it's just as Qin Hao said. He really killed Rock Mountain with one punch. I can't believe it! He only has the strength of a mere stage 5 heavenly saint. Although I am like an ant in front of this strength, compared to Rock Mountain who possesses an essence spirit, Qin Hao should be extremely weak. Why is that? Didn't you hear what the first elder said? He focused all of his origin energy on a single point, and that's how he managed to create such terrifying destruction. Why didn't I think of that? Along with the discussions of the disciples, some of them seemed to have gained enlightenment after watching the battle. They actually sat down cross-legged below the battle arena and entered a state of enlightenment. Moreover, more and more people were sitting cross-legged densely surrounding the arena. Over 1,000 people closed their eyes at the same time, facing Qin Hao together as if they were worshipping him. Stingy, what's there to worship? You should worship me, because Qin Hao will be killed by me next. Duan Shuelu reprimanded with jealousy. He couldn't stand others worshipping Qin Hao. He angrily stepped on the ground and his body floated onto the stage. Wasteland, get out of here! After getting on the stage, Duan Shuelu also kicked Rock Mountain's corpse. It was simply a useless thing. However, Rock Mountain did force Qin Hao to reveal his realm. This point was still worthy of recognition. If this was heard by Qin Hao, he would definitely despise him. A stage 8 heavenly saint with an essence spirit forced him to reveal his realm? Alright, this was the only use of Rock Mountain. Unfortunately, he couldn't force him to reveal his true trump card. You are the same as them. You only have one chance. Pointing at Duan Shuelu who was on the stage, Qin Hao said in the same tone, even the same tone of contempt. As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. The disciples who had just fallen into a state of enlightenment were no longer in the mood to continue. Arrogant, really arrogant. Facing Duan Shuelu, Qin Hao actually speaks in such an unscrupulous manner. I don't know if there is something wrong with his brain, or his tone is as strong as his strength. Rock Mountain, a stage 8 heavenly saint, is no match for Duan Shuelu at all. Even if Qin Hao is strong enough, it is impossible for him to defeat Duan Shuelu in one move this time. More importantly, Duan Shuelu is half a step into the king realm. Haha, I'm afraid Qin Hao will become a joke in this battle. The disciples talked and fixed their eyes on the stage. Brother, let's stop here. You have done your best. Xiaogua looked at Qin Hao anxiously. No matter how he looked at it, Qin Hao could not be a match for Duan Shuelu. Xiaogua, who was familiar with Qin Hao, knew very well that in the past, Qin Hao could challenge opponents who were 3 levels higher than him. When facing opponents who were 4 levels higher than him, he could at most protect himself. This meant that Qin Hao, who was currently a stage 5 heavenly saint, had obviously reached his limit to kill Rock Mountain. In front of Duan Shuelu, who was half a step into the king realm, there was no possibility of him winning. Lad, I still say the same thing. Take the initiative to admit defeat. With my status, I can save your life. The chief grand elder stroked his beard with a patronizing look. In response, Qin Hao ignored him again and pointed at Duan Shuelu. Half Yuan King? You can make your move now. Qin Hao was not arrogant. He could not challenge opponents who were 4 levels higher than him. That was in the past, not now. In terms of physical strength, Qin Hao was a demigod. In addition, he had twin origin souls. When he was hiding from the 3 aristocratic families in the wasteland, he had killed a stage 1 Yuan king in the most tragic battle. Duan Shuelu was merely a half Yuan king. He could not threaten Qin Hao at all. You will pay a painful price for your arrogance. Take this. Feel the terror of the real number one person in the inner yard. Duan Shuelu rushed forward quickly and threw out a wave of water vapor behind him. He did not create a shocking scene like when Rock Mountain attacked, but when he arrived in front of Qin Hao, he suddenly struck out with his palm. In an instant, his source spirit appeared behind him. A vast river overflowed, setting off raging waves. The water from his source spirit poured into his palm, making it look like his palm had turned illusory, emitting a silvery light. This palm was based on Qin Hao's fighting style. He poured all his origin qi into his palm and aimed to kill the enemy in one move. This showed that Duan Shuelu was indeed not ordinary. He was able to apply what he had learned, and his ability to master it was very strong. His palm that contained the origin soul was stronger than Qin Hao's attack when he killed Rock Mountain. Dragon swirls in all directions. Qin Hao's reaction was also extremely fast. He gathered the void with his palm, and this move seemed to have absorbed all the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the entire inner yard. The spiritual qi gathered in the center of his palm, and with a sweep of his right palm, 8 flying dragons flew out and arranged themselves around his body. The two strong forces collided in one move. Boom! In the earth-shattering explosion, the arena shook and sank 2 meters deep. A layer of visible water vapor mixed with sharp golden light swept around. The students who were close to the arena did not have time to react. They flew upside down and were seriously injured in one move. If it were not for the 10 inner circle elders who came to the rescue at the critical moment, hundreds of students would have been killed by the aftermath of the fight between the two of them. In the arena, Duan Shuelu smashed the 8 flying dragons circling Qin Hao with one move and hit his chest hard with his palm. With a muffled sound, dense dragon scales appeared on Qin Hao's chest. The sturdy dragon scales immediately dissolved the opponent's attack. Duan Shuelyo's palm energy could not penetrate Qin Hao's body. A half-step Yuan monarch is indeed not something trash can compare to. Qin Hao looked down at the palm imprinted on his chest. As this palm had absorbed Qin Hao's battle essence, it actually shattered his protective dragon energy. Qin Hao felt a slight pain in his chest, but in the end it was still firmly blocked by the dragon scales. This also showed that Duan Shuelu could not break his defense. Moreover, Qin Hao had not used his real trump card, the Golden Bell Protection. But a half-step Yuan monarch only managed to shatter my protective qi. Isn't that too ridiculous? The corners of Qin Hao's mouth curled up. His eyes flashed, and he also hit his opponent with his palm. When he attacked, the back of his hand was covered with dragon scales. There was even a huge and ferocious illusory dragon claw that wrapped around Qin Hao's palm. Before the palm came close, it already had the aura of death. What? Duan Shuelu had not exchanged blows with Qin Hao before, so he naturally did not know how powerful his opponent was. Previously, he had always thought that Yan Dashan and Lin Pingji were too weak. Now that he was personally involved in the battle, he finally understood how terrifying Qin Hao was. Duan Shuelyo's attack, which had been combined with Qin Hao's battle techniques, could not even break his opponent's defense. It had only shattered Qin Hao's protective qi. This was undoubtedly humiliating. If it had been anyone else, even if they were facing a 9th-level Yuan monarch, Duan Shuelu would have been able to severely injure or even kill a 9th-level Yuan monarch without an essence soul. But he had no time to think. Qin Hao's fatal palm had already struck. Sailing against the current. Knowing how terrifying Qin Hao's physical body was, Duan Shuelu did not dare to take it head-on. He used his essence soul secret technique and condensed a water puppet in his position. Taking this opportunity, his body turned into a shadow and retreated quickly. His body was extremely agile. Bang! With a palm strike, a splash of water appeared in front of him. Qin Hao's palm strike had dispersed the water puppet, but Duan Shuelu was lucky enough to dodge it. Your reaction is quite fast. Qin Hao shook his hand to shake off the water droplets on his hand. Duan Shuelu, a half-step Yuan monarch, had underestimated his opponent for not being able to kill him in one move. Qin Hao was relaxed, but Duan Shuelu was horrified. He had just brushed shoulders with death. Qin Hao's palm strike had dispersed his water puppet. That water puppet was condensed from Essence Soul and could withstand an all-out attack of an opponent of the same level. But it could not withstand Qin Hao's attack, which was a 5th-level Heavenly Saint. He is simply a monster. Duan Shuelu could not help but say this. His face was covered in sweat. He is so powerful. Someone from the outer yard defeated Duan Shuelu with one palm strike. It is simply impossible for someone from the inner yard to do so. Is Qin Hao's true cultivation level a 5th-level Heavenly Saint? Is he still hiding his strength? No matter what, Qin Hao did not kill Duan Shuelu in one move. Clearly, he is slapping his own face. Ah! While the spectating students were shocked, there were also some who made irresponsible remarks. Their words were full of mockery towards Qin Hao. But they did not know that Qin Hao was already a miracle for challenging a 4th-level Heavenly Saint. In contrast, the students who mocked Qin Hao did not even have the courage to fight him. Although I did not defeat you in our first fight, it does not mean that I do not have the ability to kill you. Next, you will also feel my horror. Qin Hao's face darkened. He decided not to hide his dragon soul anymore. He slowly raised his hands, and with the rise of his primordial qi, a giant phantom gradually appeared behind him. It was also the first time that Qi Xiaogua, the chief elder, and the others saw his own primordial spirit. Suddenly, a dragon roared in the inner yard. The giant dragon soared into the sky. Its domineering body coiled, and the giant dragon grew bigger and bigger. It was at least 100 feet long. A pair of scarlet dragon eyes looked down at the world. It emitted a torrential dragon aura that made everything tremble. This scene shocked the entire inner academy into absolute silence. After the initial shock, everyone began to panic and become restless. When Qin Hao released his essence soul, the aura of the giant dragon immediately alerted the inner yard. 3 magnificent figures could be seen flying quickly from the direction of the inner yard. Each of them was a young man who was a Yuan king. Furious dragon spinning sky slash. With a domineering roar, Qin Hao raised his hands above his head and slashed at Duan Shuelu. Roar! Chapter 640. With this blow, Qin Hao felt a force that could topple mountains and overturn seas. He fell onto the arena involuntarily. His feet left a mark on the arena that was more than 10 meters long before he managed to stop himself. Immediately, a faint trace of blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. His palm was in pain. Qin Hao pouted and spat a mouthful of bloody phlegm at his feet. His opponent was a strong opponent who was about to become a level 2 Yuan monarch. If not for the protection of the dragon scales, Qin Hao would not have been able to withstand it. However, his opponent was not in a good state either. After taking a blow from Qin Hao, his body was sent flying. His neatly arranged hair was disheveled and he looked miserable. Although he did not vomit blood, a large amount of blood flowed out of his right hand as soon as he stopped himself. The skin on his palm was cracked and drops of blood flowed down his fingers. Obviously, Qin Hao's pure physical strength was far beyond his imagination, and he did not gain any advantage at all. What? Xianyuan Wuhuang was very surprised. At this moment, the teasing smile on his face was gone. He stared at Qin Hao with a serious expression, feeling a little incredulous. Qin Hao was not at a disadvantage when facing the inner pavilion disciple head-on. Instead, he had cracked the palm of the third inner pavilion disciple. Qin Hao was stronger than Xianyuan Wuhuang had imagined. Oh my God, is this real or fake? Not only did Qin Hao kill Duan Shuelu, but he also did not lose when facing the inner pavilion disciple. Not only did he not lose, but he is also not weak at all. And the dragon soul behind him has actually turned into a flaming dragon soul. The disciples below the arena were all shocked. They were dumbstruck as they looked up at Qin Hao, who was standing proudly on the arena. They did not know when the dragon soul behind Qin Hao had turned into a flaming dragon. Qin Hao's essence energy had also turned into flaming essence energy when facing the inner pavilion disciple. The disciples absolutely did not believe that this was Qin Hao's essence soul. The only explanation was soul fire. Qin Hao was actually a super monstrous genius with twin source spirit. The dragon soul was the overlord of all beasts. Flame, the elemental source spirit with the strongest killing power, there was no other source spirit. Crack! Cha! 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 Invisibly, there seemed to be a thunderbolt rolling through the air, making all the disciples, including Qi Xiaogua, tremble with palpitations. Twin essence souls. He is actually a disciple with twin essence souls. The great elder was also shocked to the extreme at this moment. What followed was excitement, uncontrollable excitement. Everyone, including the other 9 old men in the cabinet, gasped for breath and widened their eyes. At this moment, they had already forgotten about Duan Shuelio's death. In their eyes, there was only Qin Hao, a super disciple with twin original spirits, a peerless genius that was hard to meet in 1,000 years. In ancient times, as long as a martial artist had a twin origin spirit, which one of them would have a heaven-defying good fortune. The Scarlet Sun Martial Institution had picked up a treasure this time. Who are you? Qin Hao did not have time to pay attention to the excitement and shock in other people's eyes. He glanced at the inner pavilion disciple who had attacked him. At this moment, he secretly raised his strength, and the endless samsara technique was running in an orderly manner. Just now, he had hurriedly used his twin essence souls to fight against him. In fact, he did not use his full strength. If they fought seriously, Qin Hao was 80% sure that he could kill this person. Of course, he would also have to pay a little price. Duan Huolu! Duan Huolu angrily shouted. His right palm shook and a white bone fire rose, which violently burned the wound and stopped the bleeding. Then, he glanced at the corpse of Duan Shuelu on the arena. The corpse only had half of its head left. Its eyes were full of fear. It could be seen that Duan Shuelu was unwilling and desperate before. Duan Huolu? Qin Hao said in a low voice. Just by this name, it was enough to analyze the identity of the other party. It turned out that the elder brother of Duan Shuelu had come. It was really funny. Originally, he thought that Yen Dashan would have a backer in the inner pavilion. Unexpectedly, the backer was Duan Shuelu. It seemed that this matter could not be settled peacefully. Duan Huolu, how dare you? At this time, the chief elder flashed and stood between the two of them. You have disregarded the rules of the inner yard. You broke into the Heaven List competition and attacked our disciples. You must be severely punished. You are too shameless to attack our disciples just because you are a disciple of the inner yard. If you are not punished, we will have no sense of security in the inner yard. A large number of disciples of the inner yard indignantly defended Qin Hao. To put it bluntly, they were actually defending themselves. Qin Hao now represented the interests of the inner yard. If Duan Huolu went berserk because of Duan Shuelio's death and killed people everywhere in the inner yard, wouldn't there be a lot of unlucky people? No one wanted to pay for Duan Shuelio's death. Duan Huolu, go back to the inner pavilion immediately. The chief elder became angrier and angrier. He pointed at Duan Hua and shouted angrily. This person killed my brother. If I don't take revenge, I am not worthy of being a brother. Duan Huolu would not let the matter rest. He hated Qin Hao to the core. I will say it again. Get lost. The chief elder roared. The aura of a peak Yuan monarch rose and the whole inner yard shook violently. Not only did the ground shake, but thousands of houses also shook. "Young man, what is your name?" Duan Huolu gritted his teeth and asked Qin Hao, suppressing the anger in his heart. "Qin Hao." Qin Hao replied coldly. "If you have the guts, I will wait for you in the inner pavilion. That day will be the day you die." Duan Huolu snorted and glared at the chief elder with hatred. If it were not for the strength of this old man, he would have killed him as well. Immediately, Duan Huolu waved his hand and swept away half of Duan Shuelio's head. He turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the sky above the inner yard. He flew toward a towering mountain in the depths of Qiyang University. "Qin Hao, right? I will also wait for you in the inner pavilion. I look forward to a battle with you." Yi Wuhan, who had always been cold and emotionless, took the initiative to speak for the first time. He did not speak more than 3 sentences in a year. Today, not only did he speak to Qin Hao, who was a disciple of the inner yard, but he also took the initiative to challenge him. Obviously, Qin Hao had also aroused Yi Wuhan's great interest. After he finished speaking, he silently disappeared in midair, as if he had never been there. He seemed to be extremely profound. Sigh. The last remaining disciple, Xianyuan Wuhuang, shook his head and looked at Qin Hao sympathetically. "Junior brother, I don't know if today is your honor or your sorrow. Cherish your remaining life." Xianyuan Wuhuang knew that no one who fought with Yi Wuhan could survive. After speaking, a golden light flashed and Xianyuan Wuhuang disappeared into thin air. The appearance of 3 disciples from the inner pavilion at the same time would definitely be a sensational event on a normal day. However, the disciples were not shocked today. Because in their eyes, the person who was more sensational was Qin Hao. No one would have thought that Qin Hao's real battle strength would be so terrifying and powerful. Then thinking back to the first round, he had knocked away the 9th layer holy stone and shattered the soul-locking stone in the second round. Everything seemed insignificant. On the other hand, Lin Pingji and Yen Dashan were simply 2 clowns. In front of Qin Hao, they had overestimated their abilities and were seeking their own death. Not to mention Yen Dashan, even Duan Shuelu and Duan Huilu, did not gain any advantage after exchanging blows with Qin Hao. In addition to the strength of Qin Hao, what really worried Xiaogua and the others was that Qin Hao seemed to have aroused the dissatisfaction of Yi Wuhan, the number 1 person in the inner pavilion. "Originally, I wanted to take you back to the inner pavilion after the Heaven List tournament and receive special training. However, for your safety, you should cultivate in the inner yard for a year." Chapter 641. Actually, you don't have to stop us from fighting. If Duan Hui doesn't respect the rules and goes too far, I have a 50% chance of killing him. Qin Hao gestured with 5 fingers, but in reality, he had an 80% chance of winning. He deliberately said 50% because he didn't want to embarrass the Grand Elder of the inner sect. After all, Duan Hua was a disciple of the inner sect and had been trained by the 10 great elders. Hearing this, the Grand Elder frowned and said with a drooping face, "Arrogant." Qin Hao was good in everything, whether it was his aptitude, combat thinking, or character. The only bad thing was that he was too arrogant. 50% chance of killing a disciple of the inner sect? I'm afraid you don't even have a 10% chance of winning. Young people always wanted to save face, so they exaggerated and said 50%. Of course, this was what the Grand Elder thought. It's up to you to believe it or not. Qin Hao didn't want to explain. He turned and walked to Xiaogua. "Do you understand this battle?" "Yes." Xiaogua nodded heavily, unable to hide the joy in his eyes. He understood that Qin Hao's words had 2 meanings. First, he wanted to show his current cultivation. Second, and most importantly, he wanted Xiaogua to feel the pressure from the inner sect. If he didn't improve his strength as soon as possible, once Qin Hao needed help, Xiaogua wouldn't be able to help him. "Don't worry, big brother. I won't drag you down. Within a month, I will break through to the quintessential saint realm. Sayogwa patted his chest and promised. Me too, me too. Brother Qin Hao, I won't embarrass you. Nalan Li looked at Qin Hao with admiration, blinking her big eyes. In addition to being cute and sweet, there was also determination. Me too, Naransu said calmly. TSK, another group of arrogant juniors. They've all been led astray by Qin Hao. In the distance, the great elder snorted disdainfully. Truly, one is marked by the company one keeps. The juniors who followed Qin Hao were all the same. Then all of you can cultivate in peace in the inner yard. I still have other matters to attend to, so I need to leave for a while. At least half a month, at most a month. Nodding encouragingly at the crowd, Qin Hao then looked at the First Elder. First Elder, you won't go back on your promise of 10,000 earth crystals, right? Don't worry, I won't forget what I promised you. However, are you sure you don't want to stay? The First Elder asked doubtfully. In his opinion, even if Qin Hao stayed in the inner yard, it wouldn't affect the special training of the 10 elders. The 10 of them could secretly carry out the training. However, Qin Hao's monthly allowance had to be distributed according to the inner court disciples. Even so, to Qin Hao it was a great gift. No, in a month, I will personally go to the inner yard and accept the challenge of Broken Fire Stream and Yi Wuhan. After saying that, Qin Hao flew up and turned into a beam of light, flying out of Qiangbin. Cultivating in the inner yard for a year before going to the inner yard? What a joke. To Qin Hao, a month was enough. His main goal now was to find Hai Laosi and get him to search the entire western Liang for a meridian replenishing grass to repair Senior Shen's meridians. Secondly, it was time for Qin Hao to retrieve the tranquil nether water. The tranquil nether water was the only treasure that could save him. Apart from the tranquil nether water, there was no other way to melt the petrified rock. Qin Hao believed that just like when he obtained the red lotus fire, when he obtained the tranquil nether water, he would definitely obtain a great fortune. This fortune would greatly reduce the gap between him and the inner yard disciples in a short period of time. Even if he couldn't break through to the king realm, he would at least reach the peak of the Sky Sage realm. This was Qin Hao's premonition. As for Sayogwa and the rest, they could just stay in the inner yard and cultivate in peace. After killing the top 3 of the inner yard's heaven roll in 3 battles, no one could pose a threat to Sayogwa and Nalan Li. Of course, with Sayogwa's current level, it wouldn't take long for him to become the strongest person in the inner yard after Qin Hao left. What Qin Hao needed to do was to remove the obstacles for his brother. Accept Yi Wuhan's challenge in a month's time? Looking up at Qin Hao flying away, Lin Feng stupidly said. If these words didn't come from Qin Hao's mouth, then the person who said it must be a madman. Big Brother is really unfathomable. All this time, he has been filled with endless mysterious power that no one can guess. Sayogwa licked his lips and began to worship him again. But Nalan Li waved her small hand and hit Sayogwa's head. She put the back of her hand on her waist and snorted, "Then you should hurry up and cultivate. Once Big Brother Qin Hao leaves, who will protect me in the future?" After saying that, she covered her mouth and chuckled. Sayogwa also scratched his head stupidly. A fighting spirit rose in his heart. He swore that in the future, Nalan Li didn't need his big brother to protect her anymore. He would be Nalan Li's staunchest protector. What are you looking at? You bastards, why don't you hurry up and continue the competition for old man? Sayogwa and Nalan Li's flirtatious behavior undoubtedly spread a bunch of dog food in front of the inner yard disciples, causing many people to be envious. When the great elder saw this, he hurriedly scolded everyone. Then next, Bai Lang, Hao Yu Duo, Hao Youqiang, let's also play in the arena. Similarly, you only have one chance to fight. Or, the 3 of you can fight together. Sayogwa rubbed his fist and stared at the 3 people with a smirk. These 3 bastards shamelessly sneak attacked him in the first round. It was time for them to pay back. Oh no! I refuse. I admit defeat. We admit that Senior Brother Gua is the second in the inner yard. The three of them hurriedly knelt down and begged for mercy like clowns. According to Qin Hao's style of doing things, as soon as he got on the arena, he would die. As Qin Hao's brother, Xiaogua imitated him everywhere. How could the three of them dare to agree? For a moment, these three gutless guys caused many people to mock them. Ha ha ha, Junior Brother Gua, let me, Han Man, fight you! The inner yard doesn't only have Duan Shuelu and Rock Mountain. I, Fong Jinchang, the fourth in the heaven ranking, will fight with you. And I, Tai Long. I am Tan Yong, I beg for a fight. Whoosh. A few people stood out from the crowd, all of them staring at Xiaogua with fighting spirit. In an instant, the curtains of the arena were drawn again. However, this time, the main character was Xiaogua. Sigh, when will the 9th layer of the Holy Stone fall? Lin Feng had not yet started the first round of the test. He sighed faintly and raised his head to look at the vast sky. However, there was not even a shadow of the Holy Stone in the sky. If one followed Lin Feng's gaze, there was actually a pile of broken pieces falling from a height of several million miles. The 9th layer of the Holy Stone, including the high platform, was already broken beyond recognition. According to the speed of their fall, in another 4 hours, they would miraculously fall to the ground. In front of the elders. Chapter 642. He wasn't much of a threat to Duan Huilu. What Qin Hao needed to pay attention to was the disciple who had created many legends in Qiyang, Yi Wuhan. Qin Hao didn't know much about this person. He could only guess from the faint aura that he was emitting that his cultivation was no lower than the 5th tier of the King realm, or even higher. One's cultivation level didn't represent one's strength. It was just an appearance. What was Yi Wuhan's soul? Qin Hao didn't know what fighting style he had on the battlefield. He believed that the other disciples didn't know either, because those who knew were already dead. It seems that this person isn't easy to deal with. He's also unhappy that I broke his record. Qin Hao nodded as they flew in the air. He believed that he wouldn't be much weaker than Yi Wuhan after he recovered the tranquil nether water. There was also Xianyuan Wuhuang. This person looked ordinary, but other than his hair and eyes, he was actually quite a terrifying character. Others couldn't sense it, but Qin Hao and Denda's intuition told them that this person's cultivation was no weaker than Yi Wuhan's. His potential might even be above Yi Wuhan's. This was because he was too good at hiding his strength. This kind of seemingly ordinary person was actually the most terrifying when he exploded. Qin Hao knew this very well. Xianyuan Wuhuang doesn't seem to be hostile to me. He doesn't seem like a petty person who harbors jealousy. Smiling faintly, Qin Hao collected his thoughts. If he wasn't forced, he didn't want to have any conflicts with the inner disciples. After all, after the opening of the Medicine Valley, the inner disciples were the strongest in Qiyang. Qiyang wasn't the only one who entered the Medicine Valley. If they couldn't unite, they would be easily swallowed up by the other 3 academies, especially Tianbuguang, who had a grudge against Qin Hao. Star Moon Academy's fighting strength had always been the best among the 4 academies. The inner disciples were definitely not weaker than Yi Wuhan. With Xiaogua's aptitude, he was barely qualified to enter the Medicine Valley. Of course, if there were others who were willing to join, Qin Hao wouldn't refuse. Xianyuan Wuhuang was a suitable candidate. Now I should go and see Xiaolei, Xiaojun, Aku, and the old demon. Oh right, and Xing. With a single thought, Qin Hao soared into the sky like a rocket, his speed increasing explosively as he charged straight toward the imperial capital. However, he didn't know that flying was prohibited within the imperial city. Of course, this restriction also had its own rules. For example, the deans and higher-ups of the 4 major academies, as well as the bigwigs of the imperial military, had the right to fly. Normal elementalists were not even allowed to ride horses. Last time, in order to save Yi Shuihan, Qin Hao was able to fly in the imperial city because the patrol commanders saw Yao Lao and Qin Hao together. This time, he was not so lucky. Luoshui, Jinchong District. The Hai Family Trading Company was located in the Golden Regency District. In fact, most of the empire's merchants' shops were located in the Golden District. Just by looking at the name, one could tell that the people living in Jinchong District were all high-ranking officials, nobles, and tycoons. Making money was their life's work. At this moment, on the bustling streets of the Golden Regency District, there was an endless stream of people coming and going. Among them, there was a group of people who were particularly outstanding. Each of them had an extraordinary aura. The person leading the group was a child who was about 10 years old. He was dressed gorgeously and looked like a young master of a noble family. Behind him, there were 3 girls walking side by side. The one in the middle was wearing a sacred white phoenix dress. On the right was a girl who was dressed simply and had no makeup on her face. Although she had no makeup on, she looked even more innocent. The girl on the left was the complete opposite. Her lips were red and her red dress fluttered in the wind. She exuded an enchanting aura everywhere, forming a sharp contrast with the girl who had no makeup on. As they walked, half of the people on the street stopped in their tracks and exclaimed in admiration, "Beautiful! Too beautiful!" No matter which one of the girls was, they were all unbelievably beautiful. If one could get one of them in one's life, it would be the greatest fortune of one's life. There were also many rich young men who drove their cars into other people's restaurants because they were too engrossed by the scene. This little clay figurine is fun. Sister Xinger, I want to buy it. Wow, this carving is so mighty. Brother Qin Hao will definitely like it. I'll buy it for him. Wow, meat buns. Sister Xinger, I want to eat meat buns. I haven't eaten meat buns in a long time. The last time, Brother Qin Hao took me to eat it. I ate 3 whole baskets. Xiao Jun, who used to be dressed in rags, now looked brand new. There was no longer a trace of wretchedness. Under Hai Laoxi's meticulous care, it had only been half a month, but his temperament seemed to have been reborn. Every subtle movement exuded the demeanor of a young master. Almost as soon as he got out of bed, there were more than a dozen pretty maids waiting by his bedside. As for etiquette, it was all taught by Hai Laoxi. As Hai Dafu's representative in Luoshui, Hai Laoxi was extremely honorable. His etiquette was definitely the best of the best. When facing all kinds of people, there was no fault in his speech and behavior. If Xiaojun was placed in the upper class of Luoshui right now, no one would have thought that he was still a poor boy half a month ago. However, a child was still a child. After half a month of learning etiquette, today was his first time going shopping, so he could not help but feel like a child. Yes, buy. Men, buy everything that young Master Xiaojun needs. Xing waved her hand leisurely. Her calm voice was filled with an irresistible might. Yes, Miss Xing. Behind her, over a dozen guards from the High Merchant Group took everything that Xiaojun had touched on the street. They did not care whether Xiaojun had really taken a fancy to them or if he had just casually swiped them. Afterwards, they casually tossed a large ingot onto the stall. No need. Immediately, the owner of the stall was moved to tears. What was a master of wealth? Everyone from the High Merchant Group was a master of wealth. Xing, thank you so much. However, you shouldn't have been too indulgent with Xiaojun. Xiaolei's eyes sparkled as she looked at Xing beside her. This beautiful and terrifying girl was simply incomprehensible. Xing clearly had a very good temper, so why were all the guards of the merchant group so afraid of her? Moreover, it seemed that even Mr. Haixi was becoming more and more afraid of Xing. In particular, Mr. Haixi did not know how to speak when he saw Xing. He only widened his eyes as if he was sighing about something. Of course, if Xiaolei knew that Xing Er was currently a profound saint, she would understand why Mr. Hi-Si was so afraid of Xing Er. Xing Er's growth was simply too fast. She had long since defeated her teacher who had taught her. Now, even the strongest person in the merchant group, the old instructor at the 7th level of the Sky Saint realm, was crying and yelling about leaving the merchant group. His reason was that it was not him who had been teaching Xing Er, but Xing Er who had been trampling on him. Sister Xiaolei, there's really no need for you to be so polite. Xing Er is Qin Hao's personal maidservant. It's only right for her to take care of you. Compared to the well-educated Xiaolei, Aku was much more straightforward. Although she was speaking to Xiaolei, her gaze was fixed on Xing Er. Her eyes were filled with the desire to spar from the beginning. Sister Aku's words are still more pleasing to the ear. Xing Er smiled faintly in response. Of course, she did not dislike Xiaolei. She just did not like others being so calculative with her. To be more precise, everyone that Qin Hao cared about should not be calculative with her. Wow. Miss Xing Er, we meet again. It looks like even the heavens are doing their best to bring us together on this crowded street. Chapter 643. Mu Xiangtian. Xing Er's footsteps paused. A look of disgust flashed through her beautiful starry eyes. Mu Xiangtian was Dan Ji's young alchemist. He was adopted by the External Affairs Elder of the Cabinet, Mu Chunfeng. His alchemy skills were all inherited from his adoptive father. Speaking of which, he was not only Mu Chuanfeng's adopted son, but also Mu Chuanfeng's proud disciple. A few months ago, Qin Hao visited the High Clan Trading Company for the first time. It was also at that time that he bought Xing Er, who had sold herself to bury her father. However, he also met the enemy who had harmed Dan Xian, Mu Chunfeng. Therefore, Qin Hao directly asked Hai Laosi to tear up the transaction agreement with Mu Chunfeng. As a result, the other party's illegal pills were still rotting in the warehouse. Although Mu Chunfeng was furious at that time, there was nothing he could do. With his ability, he could not touch Hai Laosi and the High Clan Trading Company at all. Therefore, he prepared to use a dirty trick. He sent his adopted son, Mu Xiangtian, to visit the High Clan Trading Company every few days, hoping to show off and win Xing Er's favor. It was as if Xing Er had appeared out of thin air in the High Clan Trading Company, but she was highly regarded by Hai Laosi. This was no secret. After secretly asking around, Mu Chunfeng learned that Xing Er was bought by Hai Laosi out of kindness. He treated her as his own niece, and their relationship was even closer than that of a father and daughter. This was quite a good match for Mu Xiangtian, Mu Chuanfeng's adopted son. With Mu Xiangtian's outstanding qualifications as a 4th-grade alchemist and the strength of a 3rd-level mortal saint, although he was not as outstanding as Tian Buguang, he was still a rare talent. Alchemists were very popular on the mainland. Therefore, to Mu Chunfeng, taking Xing Er and then using her to take down Hai Laosi was simply a trivial matter. He was confident in his son's contentment. As long as his son appeared, one look from him was enough to make thousands of women infatuated. Unfortunately, the result was the opposite. When Mu Xiangtian arrogantly stepped into the High Clan Trading Company, ready to show his gentlemanly ways so that the cheap girl who he looked down on could feel his charm, as a result, Mu Xiangtian was completely intoxicated by Xing Er's temperament at first glance. At that moment, his entire heart melted. What alchemy! What adoptive father! What mission! They could all go eat shit. He only hoped to obtain the favor of the girl in front of him. The one who had truly fallen was Mu Xiangtian. Unfortunately, Xing Er had never looked him in the eye, even though they coincidentally ran into each other several dozen times every day. No matter where Xing Er went, Mu Xiangtian seemed to grow out of thin air. It was disgusting to the extreme. His figure was everywhere, and there was no way to get rid of him. unless Xing Er was in her own room or training room. The most she could remember was yesterday. In a single morning, Mu Xiangtian had appeared in front of Xing Er 100 times. His face almost made Xing Er vomit. "Oh, my honorable and beautiful Miss Xing Er, what a coincidence! The god of love is really behind this. I can't believe I ran into you on the street when I was bored." Mu Xiangtian also approached her attentively, standing before Xing Er. His eyes were very clear, and he seemed to be filled with sincerity and excitement on the surface. Of course, Mu Xiangtian was not actually pretending. He had completely fallen in love with the girl before him, and he was not using her through the mission. "Do you need something? If not, don't disturb our stroll." This was the first time she had taken Xiaojun and Xiaolei out for some fresh air, so Xing Er was in a very good mood. Although Mu Xiangtian was very disgusting, it did not ruin her mood by much. "Stroll? That's exactly what I was thinking. Looks like we have similar interests. It really is fate. Why don't you let me accompany you on your stroll?" Mu Xiangtian was so excited that he could stroll with the girl he liked. How blissful was that? "There's no need." What answered him was Xing Er's bone-chilling words. It was like a gust of cold wind with shards of ice, blowing past Mu Xiangtian. Of course, Xing Er and the other two walked past him as well. They could not be bothered to even glance at him. "Ha ha ha!" Immediately, a boorish and bold laughter rang out from behind Mu Xiangtian. "Alchemist Mu, looks like Miss Xing Er's heart is not with you. Don't make a fool out of yourself." This was a commander in armor. He was the chief enforcer of the Golden District, Jiang Zhengxiong. He had a full beard, giving off a simple aura. It was also because he had coincidentally led a patrol that he had seen this interesting scene. He was an outstanding alchemist of the younger generation who was renowned throughout Dango. As Elder Mu's adopted son, he was trying his best to please her on the streets, but he could not even get Miss Xing Er to look him in the eye. How ironic. "Oh, it's Commander Jiang," Mu Xiangtian said coldly. Apart from Xing Er, he would immediately assume a haughty attitude in front of anyone else. After that, Mu Xiangtian had no intention of talking to Jiang Zhengxiong at all. He moved quickly and caught up to Xing Er again. At this moment, however, he glanced at Xiaolei and Aku. He said in a gentlemanly manner, "Wow, Miss Xiaolei and Miss Aku have become even more beautiful today. I'm not talented, but I've been researching a beauty pill recently. It's fate that brought us together, so I'll give it to the two of you today." As he spoke, light flashed in his hand, and he took out 2 jade bottles from his space ring. He passed them to Xiaolei and Aku. "I appreciate your kindness, but I don't need it." Xiaolei glanced at Xing Er intentionally. How could she not know that Mu Xiangtian had purposefully spoken to her and Aku so that he could get closer to Xing Er? "If you get in my way again, I'll turn you into mincemeat." Blood-red light flashed through Aku's eyes, and she unleashed her surging presence without any disguise. Her cultivation as a peak heavenly saint expanded, and a gust of wind blew at her red clothes, demonstrating her might as a vampire. As soon as her presence expanded, it immediately raised Jiang Zhengxiong's caution. He could not help but sigh in admiration. "What a powerful girl!" Gulp. Mu Xiangtian gulped in fear. He stopped the 3 of them and began to waver unconsciously. Before death, true love was sometimes not important. However, he did not give up. He turned his attention to Xiaojun, who was bouncing in front of him. "Wow, brother Xiaojun, you've become even more handsome these days. Look, I've just developed a kind of face-preserving pill. Take it and give it to the 3 sisters. I'll buy you meat buns later." Mu Xiangtian bent down lovingly and patted Xiaojun's head. Then, he smiled and held the face-preserving pill in his palm. Xiaojun and Xiaolei had been in the High Family Trading Company for some time, and Mu Xiangtian was no stranger to them. He had done everything he could to get closer to Xing Er. How could he let go of anyone who accompanied Xing Er? No matter who it was, he had studied them thoroughly and knew that Xiaojun liked to eat meat buns. Sister Xing Er, do you want it? Xiaojun turned around and asked Xing Er. Take it, Xing Er said calmly. After receiving confirmation, Xiaojun grabbed the 2 bottles of pills in Mu Xiangtian's hand. However, Xiaojun then casually threw them into a rubbish bin by the roadside. Mu Xiangtian was immediately enraged. He pointed at Xiaojun as his face twisted. He had indeed refined the 2 bottles of pills painstakingly. From mixing, refining, and taking them out of the furnace, he had done it personally. Every single pill had solidified his blood heart. His sincerity towards Xing Er was evident. TCH, don't think I'm stupid just because I'm young. You want to establish a relationship with me and please my 3 sisters? Dream on. Chapter 644. This scene made Mu Xiangtian feel both embarrassed and furious. He was clearly unable to get out of the situation. Mu Xiangtian, stop wasting your time on me. Xing Er won't be interested in any other man in this world apart from my young master. Don't appear before me in the future, Xing Er said bluntly. She blinked her eyes at Xiaojun. This little fellow was becoming smarter and smarter. She had to reward him when she got back. Impossible. Mu Xiangtian could not take the blow. He roared as if he was about to collapse. He looked at Xing Er anxiously. Xing Er, the heavens can bear witness to my sincerity towards you. Who is your young master? I want to duel with him. If he loses, I want him to scram out of the royal capital. Scram far, far away. Tell me, just who is he? Duel? Interesting. Aku's heart trembled inexplicably as if she sensed something. The corners of her lips curled up mischievously. She raised her hand and pointed at the sky in the distance. Do you really want to see him? You're very lucky that he's here. The him that Aku was referring to was Qin Hao. Looking in the direction she was pointing, a powerful figure of fire shot through the air. It arrived in the blink of an eye with a startling aura. It was so fast that it left people dumbfounded. Moreover, a group of specks of light chased after Qin Hao. At a closer look, they were the patrolling soldiers of the Golden District. They were currently letting out strange cries as they chased after Qin Hao. They landed on the street together. Oh my God, who's so awesome to fly in the Golden District so openly? And to fly in front of Jiang Jingxiong and Commander Jiang without any scruples. Ha ha ha, today's too exciting. Let's see if Commander Jiang will beat this idiot into an idiot. Immediately, the people of the Golden District were overjoyed. They all pointed at the figure of fire that Qin Hao had turned into and laughed. Commander Jiang's face darkened when he saw this. His face gradually trembled, as if he was trying his best to suppress something. Duel? Sorry, Xing Er is not an item, nor is she a wager. I, Qin Hao, will not bet my Xing Er on a wager for a good-for-nothing. Amidst his light laughter, Qin Hao placed his hands behind his back. His white robes fluttered as he landed in front of Xing Er. His valiant bearing made one sigh in admiration. He had already heard Mu Xiangtian's words just now. Brother Qin Hao. Xiaojun was so excited that he threw away the toy in his hand and jumped into Qin Hao's arms. However, there was someone who moved even faster and was even more excited. It was Xing Er. She saw the master she missed day and night. At this moment, she was so excited that her eyes were filled with tears. She couldn't help but throw herself into Qin Hao's arms. At the same time, she also knocked Xiaojun to the ground with an ouch. Young master, Xing Er has finally seen you. I thought you left me at the trading company and never came back. Xing Er wrapped her arms tightly around Qin Hao's back. It was as if she was about to fuse into Qin Hao's chest. Qin Hao had never expected Xing Er to be so excited. He immediately stiffened slightly before patting her head. How can that be? Didn't I come to see you? It had to be said that with a beauty in his arms, the fragrance of the girl's body, and her soft skin that could be broken with a flick of a finger, Qin Hao was momentarily overwhelmed. Hence, he quickly separated from her. Qin Hao was not good at physical communication. However, the way the two of them hugged each other made the passers-by envious. Especially Mu Xiangtian, who stood rooted to the ground like an idiot. What did he see? Xing was being hugged. His goddess was being hugged. Heavens! It wasn't an illusion, right? The high and mighty Xing of the High Trading Company, who was sacred and inviolable, actually took the initiative to throw herself into someone else's arms. Mu Xiangtian didn't even get a proper look. Immediately after Mu Xiangtian came to his senses, anger rushed to his head. He was so angry that his skull was about to shatter. He pointed at Qin Hao and roared, "Let go of Xing. Who the hell are you? How dare you act like this? Weren't you just making a fuss about wanting to see me? Forget it. Xing, tell him who I am." Qin Hao didn't want to waste his breath on Mu Xiangtian. "He's my master, the young master that Xing has served all her life." Qin Hao. Xing said respectfully. Her feminine demeanor was unmistakable. "So you're Xing's young master. Good, good, good. I want to duel with you. Do you dare?" Mu Xiangtian was so angry that he almost lost his mind, especially when he heard Xing say the words master and lifetime. He was so jealous that he almost went crazy. "Duel? I said I'm not interested." Qin Hao waved his hand and pulled Xing up. "Let's go." "Ha ha ha, coward. 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 Scum. Useless. Xing, do you see? The great young master you speak of is a coward who doesn't dare to fight me. What right does he have to be your young master? He's not even fit to be a man." Mu Xiangtian immediately pointed at Qin Hao and mocked. "Do I have the right? What does it have to do with you?" Xing said coldly. After saying that, she grabbed Qin Hao's arm tightly and leaned her head on it. Mu Xiangtian almost vomited blood at this scene. "Let's go back to the trading company. I don't have much time." Qin Hao nodded at everyone. He didn't have time to waste on a young man he didn't know. Moreover, this young man was in heat. "Stop right there. Surround him. You're flying recklessly in the Golden District. Lock him up in jail first." Whoosh! The Luoshui soldiers chasing Qin Hao surrounded him. Qin Hao was too fast for them to catch up. Now that Qin Hao finally stopped, they had a chance to attack. Seeing this, Mu Xiangtian rolled his eyes and couldn't help but smile. He looked at the absent-minded Jiang Jingxiong. "Commander Jiang, this person is looking down on the imperial authority. Are you going to let him off? Why don't you subdue him immediately? Lock him up in jail and use 108 kinds of torture." Commander Jiang? This subordinate greets the great commander. "Greetings, Commander. I didn't expect you to be here. Just in time, we've caught a rascal and made a great contribution for you." Only now did the soldiers who were chasing after Qin Hao notice Jiang Jingxiong in the crowd. They immediately saluted their superior. Their words also described Qin Hao as a dog's fart. They said that he didn't pay for groceries on the street, shamelessly touched people's buttocks, and that he was a flower thief. They accused him of a bunch of crimes without thinking. "I guess this person is the flower thief who broke into Aunt Wang's bed at night 18 years ago. I guess this person is the thief who stole Steward Lee's property 20 years ago. Steward Lee's diamond-studded underwear that was lost 20 years ago was also stolen by this person. I guess this person is from 50 years ago. The captain and vice-captain of the team also put the blame on Qin Hao for some old cases in Jinchong district and some bizarre mysteries. The oldest case could be traced back to 200 years ago. It was Qin Hao's fault for flying so fast. His brothers had to chase him so hard. They talked endlessly, spittle flying everywhere. They didn't notice that the more Jiang Jingxiong listened, the more violently his face trembled. In the end, he couldn't stand it anymore and shouted, "How dare you!" Slap! Jiang Jingxiong took a step forward and ruthlessly slapped the face of the squad leader who had insulted Qin Hao, causing 3 of his teeth to fall out. Then, in front of everyone's horrified expression, Jiang Jingxiong made a noble military salute. He clenched his right fist and placed it in front of his chest. He then said to Qin Hao, "Jinchong District's law enforcement commander, Jiang Jingxiong, greets Earl Qin Hao. I have failed to discipline my students properly. Please punish me." After that, Jiang Jingxiong lowered his head in shame. In fact, according to his military rank, he didn't need to salute Qin Hao at all. It was just that in Jiang Jingxiong's heart, Qin Hao was a very respectable person. Because in the 4 Great Academies' New Star competition, Jiang Jingxiong was one of the commanders who guarded the field. He saw with his own eyes Qin Hao's heroic act of bending and kneeling for the 2 brothers. A person with such a noble character was most worthy of the respect of soldiers. Boom! The scene of Jiang Jingxiong bowing shocked everyone on the street. They were all dumbfounded. What? This person's identity is a Count of the Empire? Oh, I remember now. He's the contestant who won the 4 Great Academies' New Star competition a few months ago. His name is Qin Hao, and he was conferred the title of a Count of the Empire by Emperor Longyuan. Oh my God, why didn't you remember earlier that a Count has the right to fly in the Imperial City? Aleph** King kill you. Brothers, beat him for me. Accompanied by a series of banging sounds, the soldiers who chased after Qin Hao began to fight with each other. The scene instantly became chaotic, creating a foul atmosphere. In fact, it wasn't that these soldiers were stupid, but that they did it on purpose. They were looking for excuses for themselves to escape punishment, putting on a show for Qin Hao. According to the commander, Qin Hao was a Count of the Empire personally conferred by the Emperor Longyuan. How could the soldiers at the bottom offend him? The difference between their identities was like heaven and earth. Counts belonged to the upper class. If Qin Hao was in a good mood and didn't bother with these low-level soldiers, then it would be fine. But if Qin Hao was in a bad mood, he only needed to say a word and ordinary soldiers would be consigned to eternal damnation. Therefore, at this moment, this group of soldiers was actually very afraid. Stop it. Those who don't know are innocent. Because I came here in a hurry, I didn't know that Luo Shui has a no-fly rule, so I didn't reveal my identity. I'm at fault too. Qin Hao waved his hand and made the soldiers stop fighting. As a result, the moment he waved his hand, the soldiers who were fighting to the death, as if they had killed their father, immediately stopped. It was a very tacit understanding. The corners of Qin Hao's eyes twitched. He smiled slightly and chose not to bother with them. Not bothering with the soldiers did not mean that he would let Mu Xiangtian off. Walking in front of the other party, Qin Hao looked at Mu Xiangtian with a smile and said indifferently, "You said, I don't have the right to fly in the Imperial City?" Gulp. Mu Xiangtian swallowed his saliva and took a step back. Counts naturally had the right to fly in the Imperial City. If they couldn't fly, then Mu Xiangtian, who was an ordinary yuan without a title, wouldn't even have the right to crawl in the Imperial City. You also said that you want Commander Jiang to put me in prison and use 108 kinds of torture? Qin Hao narrowed his eyes and took another step toward Mu Xiangtian. Qin Hao, I'm warning you. Don't mess around. The Imperial City is a place with laws. Mu Xiangtian took another step back. At this moment, of course, he knew that he was not Qin Hao's opponent. Since Qin Hao was the champion of the New Star competition and even defeated Tian Buguang, Mu Xiangtian was nothing. Moreover, Qin Hao also had the status of a count, which was personally conferred by Emperor Luo Shui. Even if Qin Hao killed someone, it would be said that the person accidentally stuck his head under Qin Hao's palm and accidentally killed himself. Moreover, the person also injured Count Qin Hao's hand. There was an 80% chance that Qin Hao wanted more. Chapter 645. Even if you report this to the Dragon Abyss Emperor, he might even accuse you of trying to assassinate Qin Hao. In an instant, Mu Xiangtian's back was drenched in cold sweat. You still say that I am a coward, a scum, and an incompetent person? Then, can you take this sword of mine? Qin Hao's voice suddenly turned cold. He waved his sleeve, and the purple meteorite sword appeared in his hand. He turned around and slashed in front of Mu Xiangtian. It was a simple move, but it produced an extraordinary red lotus soulfire. The swift and fierce sword aura swept across the street and followed Mu Xiangtian's feet to the end of the street. The stone slabs were destroyed by the sword aura and smashed into pieces. The deafening roar shocked the soldiers and made the commoners scream. Tens of thousands of people covered their ears and ran in panic when they saw this sword aura. Run! Rumble after the thunderous sound, a half-foot wide sword mark was left on the ground of Golden Sublime Street. It was so deep that one couldn't see the end of it. Creak! Mu Xiangtian twisted his numb neck and opened his mouth in horror as he looked at the sword aura that Qin Hao had slashed. This one look made his heart tremble and his heart turn cold. He knew that even 100 or 1,000 Mu Xiangtians wouldn't be able to create such a terrifying destructive force as Qin Hao. Moreover, Qin Hao had executed it so casually. It was just a casual wave, and he hadn't used his full strength at all. Oh my God, a high-level heavenly sage! I remember that during the Rising Star competition, Earl Qin Hao was only a mortal sage. In just a few days, he had broken through to the high-level heavenly sage level. The shock in the hearts of the soldiers could not be any greater. Moreover, he is not an ordinary heavenly sage. Even a low-level Yuan monarch wouldn't be able to escape unscathed from that flaming sword aura. Jiang Jingxiong thought to himself as he wiped the cold sweat off his face. His intuition told him that if Qin Hao didn't care about the consequences and unleashed his full strength, this sword aura would be enough to destroy the entire Golden Sublime District. So, do you still want to duel? Qin Hao stared coldly at Mu Xiangtian. Mu Xiangtian's legs were trembling and his face was pale. He was about to wet his pants. What's the point of a duel? He was afraid that he would be killed by Qin Hao in one strike. Qin Hao, I'm warning you again. There are laws in the Imperial City. Don't use your status as a count to maliciously oppress us common people. Now that you've destroyed the streets, you've violated the laws of the Empire. You must be punished. Now that things had come to this, Mu Xiangtian could only admit defeat. The moment he opened his mouth, he was still slandering others. But Qin Hao didn't care at all. Dharma? Let me tell you what Dharma is. After saying that, he looked at Jiang Jingxiong. Qin Hao sheathed his sword and smiled. Commander Jiang, did you see me breaking the law? Jiang Jingxiong was startled, but he acted as if nothing had happened. No, I didn't see anything. F***ck. Mu Xiangtian was furious this time. He pointed at Jiang Jingxiong and said angrily, Commander Jiang, are you blind? There was such a huge crack in the ground right under your nose and you said you didn't see it? Good, one of you is a general and the other is a count. You two are in cahoot. But I'm not afraid. You, the common people, can testify for me. I believe that everyone here saw Qin Hao destroy Jinchong Street. Isn't that right, everyone? No, I didn't see it. I don't know anything. Alchemist Mu, don't slander others. Falsely accusing a count of the Empire will send you to the Imperial prison. On the street, the common people who were hiding in the shops shook their heads. A commoner against a general? You want us common people to testify for you? Only you have the guts to say that. You bunch of trash. Mu Xiangtian felt something sweet in his throat. He was so angry that his face trembled. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. At this time, one of the Luoshui soldiers chasing after Qin Hao, the captain, was also very smart. He actually dared to destroy Jinchong Street in broad daylight. If his father, Elder Mu, doesn't pay to repair the street, he can forget about leaving the imperial prison for the rest of his life. Very quick-witted, he pointed at Mu Xiangtian and hurriedly put the crime hat on his head. That's right, that's right. I also saw alchemist Mu destroy the street. This person is lawless. He must be locked in the imperial prison and tortured by 108 kinds of torture. Only then will he have the confidence to turn over a new leaf. We can all testify that it was alchemist Mu who destroyed the street. In an instant, the common people began to clamor and madly accuse Mu Xiangtian of destroying the street. Puff! Mu Xiangtian could no longer bear it. He covered his chest and spat out a mouthful of blood. His vision darkened, and he almost died from anger. Since there are so many witnesses, I will enforce the law impartially. Men, arrest alchemist Mu and send someone to his father. Tell him to pay a ransom. Jiang Jingxiong waved his hand and ordered 2 powerful deputies to take action. These 2 were both profound sages. Let alone 2, one of them could beat Mu Xiangtian hundreds of times, not to mention the 2 of them working together. Immediately, they each grabbed one of Mu Xiangtian's arms and pressed him behind his back. Crack! Mu Xiangtian's arms were dislocated, and he was subdued. The pain made Mu Xiangtian grimace, and he cursed Jiang Jingxiong's mother in his heart. Suddenly, Qin Hao smiled and coldly looked at Mu Xiangtian. Now do you know what the law is? You! Qin Hao, right? You and Jiang Jingxiong, I won't let you off. My foster father is Danji's Foreign Affairs Elder Chunfeng. You can't afford to offend Dangu, but my foster father will definitely not let you frame me. Just wait and see, just wait and see. Mu Xiangtian was escorted away by the 2 deputies. He repeatedly turned his head and cursed at Qin Hao. You're rebelling. You're rebelling. Not only are you intentionally destroying the streets, you're even threatening a high-ranking imperial official and an imperial count. This is clearly a rebellion. If you're rebelling, then your father is rebelling. Men, quickly mobilize the troops and send word to the Imperial Army and the Imperial Guard to surround the Pill Pavilion's headquarters. If Chunfeng can't produce evidence to prove his innocence, kill him on the spot. Jiang Jingxiong had been the commander of the imperial city for more than 10 years. He had once bathed in blood on the battlefield, and his body was full of scars. These scars were also his military exploit. This was the first time he had been threatened, and he couldn't help but be angry. He waved his hand and ordered a few soldiers to find the commanders of the Imperial Army and the Imperial Guard Corps. The 2 commanders were Jiang Jingxiong. They were Jingxiong's life and death brothers. Since Mu Xiangtian wanted to play a big game, Laozi would play with him to the end. Let's see if you're stronger than Laozi as a soldier. Jiang Jingxiong, I'll F***ck your mother, I'll F***ck your mother. In the distance, Mu Xiangtian's voice gradually faded away. Presumably, he would not be able to stay in prison for the night. Since he dared to insult Jiang Jingxiong's mother, it seemed that he would be served with 108 kinds of torture. Hopefully, he wouldn't be too miserable. Haha, I'll have to trouble you, Commander Jiang. Just give him a light punishment, but don't kill him. Also, you don't have to go to Dangu to find trouble with Mu Chunfeng. Tomorrow I'll visit him personally. First, he bowed to Jiang Jingxiong. Then, Qin Hao put his hands behind his back and said coldly, "Who would have thought that Mu Xiangtian was actually Mu Chunfeng's adopted son? It would have been better if he had not revealed his identity. This matter would have ended here. Since he had lured old dog Mu out, it would serve as a reminder to Qin Hao that it was time to avenge his master. Ha ha ha, everything will be done according to Count Qin. I still have important matters to attend to, so I won't disturb you and the ladies. If you have time, you can come to the barracks and let the brothers admire your grace. Jiang Jingxiong then whispered in Qin Hao's ear, there are many new soldiers in the barracks who are your fans. As long as you say the word, we can greatly increase the training intensity of the new soldiers. Also, I'm a fan of yours. With that, Jiang Jingxiong laughed and left. He indeed had important matters to attend to. He was prepared to go back and serve Mu Xiangtian. What an interesting person! Qin Hao shook his head and smiled. Jiang Jingxiong was upright and plain-spoken. He was a man with a temperament that could be befriended. It seemed that he would have to make a trip to the golden revered military camp when he had time. What are you waiting for? Let's go back to the Chamber of Commerce. Qin Hao pinched Xiaojun, who was in a daze, and then pulled him into his arms. Brother Qin Hao, aren't you too powerful? You sent that disgusting fly to prison with a sword. That fly has been disgusting Sister Xing for a long time. How high is your count's rank? Even Commander Jiang seems to be afraid of you. Xiaojun felt that Qin Hao was extremely mighty. He kept clapping his hands and cheering. The count position isn't very high. Commander Jiang isn't afraid of me. He respects me. Qin Hao smiled. Then I also want to be a count in the future. I won't let anyone bully me and my sister. Xiaojun had a life goal. He felt that being a count was very awesome. No. Your future position is something that even 10,000 counts can't compare to. You have greater responsibilities. Qin Hao carried Xiaojun and walked in the direction of the High Merchant Company. Xiaojun was the descendant of Crown Prince Yongshou. He had the orthodox bloodline of the Qin dynasty. He would become the emperor of the wasteland in the future and restore the title of the dynasty. This was a destiny that he could not escape. And all of this would not be possible without Qin Hao's help. Young master, are you really going to leave just like that? Xing was stunned. She pointed at the sword mark that Qin Hao had left on the ground. Although it was to intimidate Mu Xiangtian, the floor had still been blown away. Such a long sword ditch would affect the traffic of the common people. Shouldn't the merchant company pay for the road to be repaired? Silly girl, Danga will pay for this. Also, how many times have I told you? Don't call me master or young master. Just call me Qin Hao. Qin Hao chuckled. He tossed Xiaojun 5 or 6 meters into the air. Then, he laughed heartily as he caught Xiaojun and walked back to the merchant company. Behind him, Xiao Lei and Aka looked at each other and shook their heads. High Merchant Company, the highest floor of the main building, a luxurious hall. As soon as Qin Hao returned, he gathered everyone here. Besides old Four High, Xing and Aku, even the old demon who was in seclusion sensed Qin Hao's aura and immediately put aside his cultivation to come over. In fact, after returning from the wasteland, the old demon had come to the High Merchant Company with the token that Qin Hao had given him. He had been in seclusion to merge with the body that he had possessed. After merging with Dugu Xuanxiao's body, he could already unleash the power of a peak Yuan monarch. Moreover, it would not take long for him to reach the supremacy level again. Ha ha ha! Young master, you easily rescued Yi Shuihan as soon as you returned. You even swept through the inner court of Qiyang Star and became a disciple of the inner court. You are really too outstanding. The old demon laughed heartily as he sat on a huge sofa made of tiger skin. He kept shaking his head with a pleased expression. Actually, he really wanted to become a student with Qin Hao and show off in the academy. Unfortunately, Qiyang University did not accept him. Chapter 646. Of course, everyone present was his family and friends, so the old demon would not use his killing move on everyone. He was just happy. He would shake his head when he was happy. Perhaps it was because after fusing with his body, he had unknowingly adopted Dugu Xuanxiao's habit. This green hat soar spirit actually has this kind of effect. Qin Hao was a little surprised as he lightly patted the armrest of his chair. He had already told everyone about the heavenly ranking tournament that happened in the inner courtyard, and then he looked at Old High C. At this moment, Old High C's fat body had disappeared and he had become more energetic and capable. Hearing what the old demon had said, he had used the green hat source spirit to cover Old High C and then refined the latter's fat. Of course, the taste of this refining process would not be good. But the green hat source spirit had the ability to lose weight, so he was considering if he should bring Hai Dafu here and get rid of the grease on his body, turning him into a charming uncle. Ha ha ha, not only can my green hat absorb fat, it can also swallow the diseases in other people's bodies. There are still many more functions to be developed. The old demon laughed as he stroked his chin. His face was filled with pride. The green hat source spirit could absorb the fat and grease, turning it into a new kind of energy. This energy would flow through the body, increasing the speed of one's cultivation. Judging from this, he believed that it could even refine diseases. In short, the old demon was fully exploring the potential of Dugu Xuanxiao's body, and the more he explored, the more surprises he had. You can research your own matters. But young master, you suppressed the inner courtyard and became a disciple of the inner courtyard. This is something worth celebrating. Moreover, you have also helped Xiaogua and the others create a stable cultivation environment. Old Fourth High was full of praises. This is only a small matter. This time, I'll have to trouble you to use the Merchant Union's power to buy me a stock of life-replenishing grass in western Liang. Qin Hao talked about the main topic. Life-replenishing grass? Old High C was a little surprised. This herb was not expensive, but it was very hard to find. Is it difficult? Qin Hao's brows jumped as he looked at the other side. It's not difficult. Old High C shook his head and said with a firm gaze, although this herb is rare, it is definitely not a problem to buy it at a high price. When will young master need it? Of course, the sooner the better. If possible, Qin Hao could not wait to cure Shin Tianfeng now. After all, he would need a lot of time to recuperate. Then I'll send someone to do it. Oh, by the way, there's still a big matter. Asi doesn't dare to make a decision. Young master, please make a decision. Hai Laosi said solemnly. Then, he told the details to Qin Hao. It was the treasure that Hai Dafu had been exploring for years. That treasure had cost a lot of money and manpower, and had almost caused Hai Dafu to go bankrupt. Now that it was about to be fully unearthed, the ancestor of the Hai family's business, Hai Dafu, was still running around the Daqin Empire that Qin Hao had just established and stabilizing the surrounding relationship. He couldn't spare the energy to come over. Therefore, it would be most appropriate for Qin Hao to deal with it on his behalf. This is the main reason why I left Scarlet Sun this time. Qin Hao nodded and made Old Four feel relieved. In fact, Qin Hao was doing this for the tranquil water. However, the tranquil water was not far from the treasure. It was very likely that they were in the same place, so he could solve it together. That's great. With young master personally handling it, I can finally rest assured. Old Four felt the pressure on him lighten. He let out a long sigh and smiled. The exact time of the excavation will be in 5 days. At that time, I will bring young master to the treasure's location. Almost all of Hai Dafu's assets were used up. Who knew how big the treasure would be? It really made one look forward to it. I will be back on time in 5 days, but tomorrow, I have to make a trip to Dangu. Qin Hao nodded. Go to Dangu? Young master, are you thinking of? Old Four immediately thought of something. That's right. I'm going to deal with a scum that should have been dealt with earlier. It's time for him to pay his debts. Qin Hao slowly clenched his fist. When he first arrived in Luoshui, it was difficult for Qin Hao to touch Mu Chunfeng because of Dan Ji's influence and his own cultivation. Now, the situation was very different. If that's the case, Let second master accompany young master. He has nothing to do anyway. Mu Chunfeng was not a first-class fighter in Luo Shui, but with Qin Hao's current strength, it would not be difficult to deal with him. However, the one that Old Four was really afraid of was Dan Ge. Dan Ge and the Commerce Alliance were the most powerful forces in western Liang. If someone from Dan Ge supported Mu Chunfeng, Qin Hao might be in danger. Then, Old Four hurriedly gave the old demon a look. Yes. I have nothing to do and I can't wait to show off. Young master, take me with you. When the time comes, I'll kill whoever I see. No matter who it is, I'll kill them with one slap. I'll turn the entire Dan Ge into a real purgatory under second master's green hat. Their families will be broken and their families will be destroyed. The old demon said in a hoarse voice, his eyes flashing with murderous intent. F***ck, don't think about killing people all the time. You're acting like a villain. You'd better not go. I'll be fine by myself. Qin Hao was speechless. He patted his butt and stood up. This old demon was an unstable bomb. All he could think about was bloody scenes. Qin Hao was only going to deal with Mu Chunfeng. He was not going to start an all-out war with Dan Ge. How can that be? There are many experts in Dan Ge. It's not appropriate for young master to go alone. You must bring second master, who is a very powerful character, with you. Regarding this, Hai Laosi was very worried. I said it's fine. It's settled then. If you have time, Aku and Old Demon, go to Jinling City. Firstly, it's to strengthen Daqin's reputation. Secondly, it's to intimidate the Sword Alliance. Otherwise, they won't know that we don't have any experts on our side. Qin Hao turned and left. Although the Sword Young Master's family had merged with Daqin, it was still necessary to intimidate them. Otherwise, the other party would look down on him. It would make Qin Hao look like he was trying to curry favor with them. Well, okay. The old demon and Aku looked at each other and nodded. With just a thought, they could tear through space and teleport over. Of course, the old demon had to do this several times. On the surface, the old demon was a venerable level expert. In reality, he could only unleash the power of a peak king level expert. When they returned to Jinling City, they could help Qin Hao train the new recruits to deal with the future war. At the same time, they could also cultivate. To strengthen themselves, they could work on both sides. If Qin Hao needed help, the old demon would instantly tear through space again. With that, the meeting was adjourned. Old Four was in charge of purchasing the life-replenishing grass. The old demon brought Aku to Jinling City to train soldiers for Qin Hao. However, Qin Hao did not immediately go to Dan Ge. Instead, he stayed at the trading company for one more day. The reason was that Xiaojun was too dependent on him, so he played with him for one more day. On the third day, Qin Hao stepped into Dan Ji's headquarters. First, he needed to find Elder Zhen and inform him in advance to avoid unnecessary conflicts with Dan Ji's experts when dealing with Mu Chunfeng. Mu Chunfeng had someone backing him in Dan Ge? Sorry, but Qin Hao also had someone backing him. Elder Zhen was the internal affairs elder and had absolute authority in Dan Ge. However, this time, Xing Er also followed Qin Hao. In her words, following Qin Hao was her duty as a maid. Qin Hao did not refuse. In fact, he knew that Xing Er missed him too much. After buying her body to bury his father, they had not seen each other for a few months. It was indeed irresponsible of him to leave her in the trading company. It was worth mentioning that Xing Er's performance greatly exceeded Qin Hao's. From a weak girl without the strength to a 6-star profound sage in a few months, Xing Er's potential and terror could not be described with the word terrifying. This girl's physique is unimaginably strong. Even I can't see through it. Looking at the beautiful woman beside him, Qin Hao's eyes inadvertently flashed with a look of admiration. At this time, he suddenly remembered Yao Lao's words. Xing Er was born with spiritual bones. It would be a pity if she did not go to Qiangbin to further her studies. Qin Hao decided to take Xing back to Qiyang after getting back the tranquil water. From what Yao Lao said, he intended to take Xing as his disciple. If Xing also gets the qualification to enter the Medicine Valley, Qiyang University's chances of winning should be greater. Nodding, Qin Hao was deep in thought. Qiyang cared about reputation, while he cared about his master. With Xing help, Qin Hao's success rate in finding medicinal herbs could also be increased. According to the current situation, the only person who would follow him to the Medicine Valley would be Xiaogua. Of course, Xuehan would also be there. He believed that after Yi Xuehan went through this ordeal, the power of his origin spirit would be awakened. Under the terrifying training of the Dragon Abyss Emperor, it would definitely be a pleasant surprise. "Sir, what are you thinking about?" Sensing that Qin Hao was in a daze, Xing beautiful eyes curved slightly. She revealed a sweet smile that was intoxicating. "Oh, I was thinking that our Xing is becoming more and more beautiful. No wonder even a young alchemist like Dan Gu is head over heels for you." "Ha ha ha," Qin Hao joked. He did not know how Mu Xiangtian was being served by Commander Jiang in prison. He hoped that it was not too tragic. However, the actual result was far beyond Qin Hao's expectations. Not to mention that Mu Xiangtian was tortured, there was not a single scar on his body. At this moment, he was enjoying a massage from a few girls at Dan Ji's headquarters. He sat on a large chair with a satisfied expression. At this moment, a grand event was going on outside Dan Gu. The Triennial Alchemist Advancement Competition was in full swing. As the adopted son of the External Affairs Elder, Mu Xiangtian had some ability. It was inevitable that he would become the focus of attention in this competition. Chapter 647. On the day of the alchemist competition, Dan Ji's branches in every corner of western Liang would send their young alchemists to participate in the competition. Even some geniuses from other sects would come along, making for an extremely large lineup. With Mu Chuanfeng's ability as an external affairs elder, it was naturally impossible for him to save Mu Xiangtian from prison. In fact, it was Dan Ji's higher-ups who had pressured Jiang Zhengxiong to allow Mu Xiangtian to participate in the competition. He had only been out of prison for a single day. But it was enough to make Mu Xiangtian proud. Thinking back to the scene of him walking out of prison arrogantly while Jiang Zhengxiong glared at him helplessly, he felt particularly happy. Today, I must win the top 3 and make foster father look at me in a different light. I must also attract the attention of Dan Ji's higher-ups in exchange for my eternal freedom. Otherwise, I will be imprisoned again by that bastard Jiang Zhengxiong who colluded with Qin Hao. Nodding angrily, Mu Xiangtian waved his hand and signaled the young girl beside him to leave. More and more people gathered in Dan Ji's square, indicating that the competition was about to begin. With Mu Xiangtian's ability as a 4th-grade alchemist, it was actually very difficult for him to obtain a good ranking. Young Master Xiang, this time you will definitely be able to suppress everyone and show off your invincible style. I have confidence in you. Beside him, a blue-robed man spoke with admiration. He was Mu Xiangtian's protector, which meant that he was a pill slave. His strength was extraordinary, and he was a 4th-layer sky saint. This cultivation was much higher than Mu Xiangtian's. But as everyone knew, the requirements to become an alchemist were extremely harsh. Being a cultivator with a high cultivation didn't mean that they could become an outstanding alchemist. Mental strength and the ability to control fire were extremely important. Therefore, some cultivators with poor innate talent would choose to serve powerful alchemists, forming a contract to protect them and become their pill slave. This was a condition in exchange for pills provided by the alchemist free of charge. It was a win-win situation. But in reality, the alchemist was the master. and this blue-robed man was Mu Xiangtian's pill slave, as well as his #1 expert. Lan Dong, if only I had taken you with me yesterday, I wouldn't have been threatened by that bastard Qin Hao. How dare he not know the immensity of heaven and earth to snatch Xing Er from me? Just wait and see. Sooner or later, I will make him pay the price in blood. As for suppressing everyone? I don't want to be #1, I just want to sweep away some trash. It's not a problem at all. Mu Xiangtian also patted Lan Dong's shoulder and smiled confidently. Oh? Is that so? In your eyes, what kind of people are considered trash? A voice came from afar, filled with a cynical tone. Mu Xiangtian's eyes suddenly narrowed. He looked in the direction of the voice and saw a young man in snow-white robes walking over. This person had a handsome face and an extraordinary appearance. On the young man's chest, there was a special cross-shaped pattern. 10 Directions Academy, Ren Xiaoyao. Mu Xiangtian said solemnly. The white-robed young man was ranked 3rd on the heaven ranking of the 10 Directions Academy. He was a powerful 6th-layer heaven saint and an alchemist. He could be considered a formidable opponent. A heaven saint realm alchemist should be a 6th-grade alchemist in terms of grade. However, Ren Xiaoyao had never reached the 6th grade after taking the assessment several times. So now, he could only display a 5th-grade alchemist. And his 5th-grade alchemist was already 1 grade higher than the 4th-grade alchemist, Mu Xiangtian. Of course, that was in the past. That's right. I also want to hear what kind of people are considered trash in Brother Mu's eyes. For example, Ren Xiaoyao is clearly a heaven saint, but he can only refine a 5th-grade trash pill. Is he considered trash? Ha ha! Accompanied by hearty laughter, another group of people walked over from the crowd. The person in the lead was wearing a mighty black bodysuit with a dragon head pattern embroidered on his chest. So it's Brother Huang Tianba from the Wild Dragon Academy. Long time no see, you're still as strong as before. When Mu Xiangtian saw this person, he hurriedly smiled and greeted him respectfully. He was very friendly and also revealed a hint of admiration. It could be seen that the relationship between the two was not shallow. Huang Tianba was a disciple on the Inner Academy's heaven ranking. He was ranked 2nd and was even stronger than Ren Xiaoyao. He was a 7th-grade heaven saint. What was more commendable was that he had already surpassed Ren Xiaoyao's 5th-grade alchemist bottleneck and successfully passed the assessment to become a 6th-grade alchemist. Hearing the ridicule in Huang Tianba's words, Ren Xiaoyao coldly snorted. Immediately, the group of Mad Dragon Academy's disciples standing behind Huang Tianba all burst into loud laughter. After all, in terms of imposing manner, Huang Tianba of the Mad Dragon Academy had surpassed Ren Xiaoyao. This caused the disciples of the Mad Dragon Academy to feel very proud. Today is really not bad. The people that I don't want to see are all here. How can I be left out? Just as the Wild Dragon Academy disciples were laughing, a group of disciples with starlight patterns flashing on their chests rudely squeezed into the arena and confronted the other party with equal harshness, emitting a thick smell of gunpowder. From their clothes, it was obvious that they were disciples of the Star Moon Academy. The Star Moon Academy was the head of the 4 great academies. Therefore, these people were born with a sense of superiority. Moreover, the one who brought them here was the 2nd on the Inner Courtyard's heaven ranking, the highly respected Yi Ziming, senior brother Yi. Although Yi Ziming was the same as Huang Tianba, a 6th-grade alchemist, his cultivation was 1 level higher than his opponent. He was in the 8th layer of the Heavenly Saint realm. Therefore, if the two of them were to compete in alchemy endurance, Huang Tianba would obviously lose to Yi Ziming. This was because Huang Tianba's yuan qi was denser, and the time he took to condense yuan fire was longer. His yuan qi was even longer. Yo, isn't this Yi Ziming who has always been arrogant? I thought someone farted and sent out a person with a mouth full of shit. So it was you who sent out a fart. Tsk. Huang Tianba spoke without any fear. He even clenched his fist threateningly at his opponent. His eyes were fierce and the corners of his mouth curled up. He had a strong desire to fight. Yi Ziming's cultivation was higher than his, but if they really fought, Huang Tianba might not necessarily lose. This was because Huang Tianba's source spirit was stronger than Yi Ziming's. Therefore, this competition was very interesting. Everyone had their own trump card. It was very thought-provoking to see who would win the competition. Whether it was Ren Xiaoyao, Huang Batian, Yi Ziming, or even Mu Xiangtian, none of them was convinced. They all felt that they were awesome. 3 out of the 4 academies are here. Why don't I see people from Qiangbin? At this time, Mu Xiangtian smiled meaningfully. When he smiled, everyone laughed. Because Qiyang University ranked last among the 4 academies, it would be a disgrace if they came. Qiyang University hadn't participated in the alchemy competition for a long time. And this year, no one would come. Because everyone knew that Duan Shuelu, Yan Dashan, and Lin Pingji of the inner courtyard were not good at alchemy. They were a group of boorish men. In fact, Mu Xiangtian and the others didn't know that Duan Shuelu, Yan Dashan, and Lin Pingji had already died in the hands of Qin Hao. I'm here. How can Qiangbin be absent? Although I'm not as strong as you senior brothers, I still shamelessly came. I hope that I can learn from you during the competition. As he spoke, Bai Lang, who had been boasting and bragging in front of everyone at Scarlet Sun Academy, when he arrived at the arena, he bowed to Huang Tianba, Ren Xiaoyao, Yi Ziming, and even Mu Xiangtian. This Bai Lang actually also knew alchemy, but his ability, was very ordinary. Compared with Brother Wei, the alchemy genius, he was naturally inferior, so he looked very humble. Who are you? How can you represent Qiangbin? Huang Tianba glared at him, and his heavenly sage aura spread out. Suddenly, Bai Lang was so scared that his heart beat wildly. That's right. Who do you think you are? I've never heard of your name in the top 3 of the inner courtyard of the 4 academies. Yi Ziming also said. In any case, they represented the 4 big schools. In the end, Qi Yang sent a Bai Lang and he dared to compete with them. He must be tired of living. His level was too low. It was an insult to the 4 big schools. I'm sorry, senior brothers. In fact, Duan Shuelu and Rock Mountain were invited to tea by the King of Hell. And you know that they are not good at alchemy. For example, the number 1 on the Heaven list of the 10 Directions Academy and the number 1 on the Heaven list of the Wild Dragon Academy are all martial arts fanatic. They only know how to cultivate and don't know alchemy. So I hope that you won't dislike me. Bai Lang will perform well. Bai Lang nodded and bowed in front of everyone without any backbone. But he also knew that although Ren Xiaoyao and Huang Tianba were not the number 1 on the Heaven list of the Wild Dragon Academy and the 10 Directions Academy, their alchemy skills were much better than the number 1. In other words, their attainments in alchemy were without a doubt the strongest group of alchemists in the world. Qiyang University is really getting worse year by year. They sent a piece of trash. I think after this Medicine Valley competition, they should be removed from the 4 academies. You can't say that. Although the inner courtyard is not good, the newcomers of the outer courtyard are very good this year. I heard that in today's newcomer competition, Qiyang University won first place, and a genius disciple from the Wild Dragon Academy went to Qiyang University. So what? A newcomer is a newcomer after all. He can't make up for the gap between him and the seniors. Qiangbin is at least 10 years behind the other 3 academies in terms of training talents. 10 years? You think too highly of them. I'm afraid it will be more than 20 years. When the newcomers of Qiyang University rise, the school will have closed down. Ha ha! A large number of people who came to watch the competition burst into loud laughter. It was very ear-piercing. Some of the Qiyang University disciples in the crowd, who came to watch the competition, also felt very sad and angry. At the same time, they were also very ashamed. They hated it. They hated the fact that the academy did not have a leader. They hated Bai Lang even more. Did he have nothing better to do? Why did he have to participate in a competition like this? How could a dog shit like Bai Lang participate in such a competition with so many experts? Did he not know how to embarrass himself? Hey, what day is it today? Why are there so many people? Suddenly, a voice full of surprise sounded. The voice sounded very calm, but it seemed to have a magical power. It made the people who were laughing stop and look over at the same time. In the distance, a young man and a young woman came over at the same time. They were both dressed in white. The young man had an extraordinary temperament. His eyes were deep and had an unfathomable feeling. As for the young woman, it was indescribable. In short, she was too beautiful. So beautiful that it made people fall head over heels. Even some of the old men who were over 50 years old could not help but feel their hearts flutter. There was no doubt that it was Qin Hao and Xing Er. Xing Er, why are you here? Mu Xiangtian was overjoyed when he saw Xing Er. But then, when he saw Qin Hao beside Xing Er, his overjoyed expression immediately turned ferocious. He clenched his fists, and a fire of hatred instantly surged. Chapter 648. No need. Mu Xiangtian waved his hand and stopped him. He took 2 deep breaths and suppressed the anger in his heart. With Xing Er here, he didn't want to show too much anger. That brat is lucky. Lan Dong retracted his killing intent and took a step back. He said, if young Master Xiang doesn't like this person, just tell Lan Dong. To me, killing this person is as easy as letting out a fart. And Mu Xiangtian nodded. He didn't doubt Lan Dong's strength at all. Although Qin Hao didn't look easy to deal with, he was definitely not Lan Dong's opponent. After a moment of shock, he thought of a plan. He smiled faintly and looked at Huang Tianba and the other two. Brother Tianba, Brother Ren, Brother Ziming, you asked me just now what kind of people are considered trash. This person. He brazenly pointed at Qin Hao. He is a useless piece of trash that isn't even worth mentioning. Then, he briefly recounted what happened when he went shopping. He wanted to have a fair fight with Qin Hao, but in the end, Qin Hao was scared and shamelessly colluded with Jiang Jingxiong to frame Mu Xiangtian and put him in jail. They were truly cowardly and cowardly. There's such a thing? Huang Tianba was shocked. Under the emperor's feet, there is no law. Hey, you dog, get over here and apologize to my brother Xiangtian. Then admit that you committed a crime and get in jail. As he spoke, Huang Tianba blocked in front of Qin Hao. The aura of a 7th-layer heaven saint spread out. He stared at Qin Hao with his eyes wide open. It was very intimidating. At the same time, he pointed at Mu Xiangtian behind him. His good brother was bullied, and Huang Tianba felt that he had a responsibility to stand up for his brother. Mu Xiangtian? Qin Hao was indeed surprised. Why was this guy here? He was supposed to be in prison. Of course, Qin Hao wouldn't suspect that Jiang Jingxiong let him out on purpose. Jiang Jingxiong's personality wasn't that bad. There must be something wrong. What are you staring at? I told you to get out and kowtow in front of my brother Xiangtian. Are you deaf? Huang Tianba's eyes widened, and a trace of anger could be seen in them. Qin Hao actually dared to ignore him. No one in the Mad Dragon Inner Court dared to ignore Huang Tianba, not even the Heaven Leaderboard's number 1. A good dog doesn't block the way, Qin Hao replied coldly. Then, he pulled Xing Er towards Danji's hall. Although he didn't know why Mu Xiangtian came out, nor did he know why there was a sea of people in Danji's square, he didn't have the time to waste his breath on a few ants. In Qin Hao's eyes, Huang Tianba, who was weaker than Duan Shuelu, was just a pile of dung. Talking to him would lower his own standard. You dare to call me a dog? You're courting death. Huang Tianba was furious and was ready to attack. After all, he had to show his power in front of Ren Xiaoyao and Yi Ziming. Brother Tianba, please wait. Seeing this, Mu Xiangtian hurriedly went up to stop him. Moreover, he looked at Qin Hao with a cold smile. What are you doing here? It's none of your business. Get lost. Qin Hao said. Are you so afraid to face me? Are you deliberately pretending that you don't know that today is the alchemist competition? Do you want to secretly participate in it, so that you don't lose face in front of Xing because of your lack of strength? Qin Hao, you are really a coward. In terms of strength, Mu Xiangtian admitted that he was no match for Qin Hao. However, in terms of alchemy, he was inferior to Qin Hao with one hand. Even if he closed his eyes and let Qin Hao ride 10,000 horses, Qin Hao still couldn't catch up with him. Therefore, what Mu Xiangtian needed to do was to irritate Qin Hao so that he would lose in alchemy. In this way, Xing would inevitably look at Mu Xiangtian with new eyes. Alchemy competition? Qin Hao was stunned and immediately understood. It turned out that the Danji's square was full of people for the alchemy competition. But unfortunately, I'm not interested. Qin Hao shook his head. As Dendi, Qin Hao did not want to bully a few incompetent people. Competing in alchemy with these people who could not even recognize all the herbs was simply lowering his status. Ha ha ha, Qin Hao, oh Qin Hao, you still refuse to admit that you're trash. What a piece of trash that doesn't dare to fight with me. Xing have you seen through Qin Hao's character? Hurry and stay away from this useless person. Mu Xiangtian placed his hands behind his back and laughed confidently. At this moment, he felt a sense of superiority. His guess was right. Qin Hao indeed did not know how to refine pills. What does my young master's character have to do with you? Xing tone was almost as cold as Qin Hao's. She then looked at Qin Hao. Young master, let's go. Yes. Qin Hao nodded. Stop. Dango is not a place for trash like you who is not even an alchemist. Huang Tianba was ignored by Qin Hao. He had long wanted to teach him a lesson, so he stopped him again. Speaking of which, who is this person? It's fine that he doesn't dare to fight with Mu Xiangtian, but he's quite arrogant. Yi Ziming, who was on the side, smiled and looked at Ren Xiaoyao. The latter also had a look of contempt. Senior brother Ziming and senior brother Ren Xiaoyao, let Lang Lang tell you who this person is. He is the current number 1 person in the inner yard of Qiyang. It was he who sent Duan Shuelu and Yan Dashan to hell to drink tea. As a disciple of Qiangbin, Bai Lang was very surprised by Qin Hao's arrival, but he was indeed the person who knew Qin Hao the best. Then, he took a step forward and explained with a fawning face. As he explained, he also smiled at Qin Hao, with depression and hatred in his laughter. But Bai Lang was not afraid at all. Although Qin Hao's strength was indeed quite strong, today was not a martial arts competition, but a competition of alchemy. Frankly speaking, Bai Lang even thought that Qin Hao's alchemy skills were not even comparable to his own. What? He killed Duan Shuelu and Rock Mountain? After hearing this, Yi Ziming, Ren Xiaoyao, and Huang Tianba were extremely shocked. In an instant, their expressions became serious. Similarly, when Mu Xiangtian heard this, he almost staggered and knelt on the ground. Qin Hao killed Duan Shuelu and Rock Mountain. They were 2 masters in the inner yard of Qiyang inner yard. Their status was higher than Huang Tianba's, especially Duan Shuelu, who was recognized as a very high ranking in the inner yard of the 4 academies. What a joke. This must be a joke. Is he qualified to kill Duan Shuelu? If this is true, then the strength of Qiangbin is really declining day by day. Huang Tianba and the other 2 people's faces were stiff, and they said unnaturally. They laughed awkwardly, but as they laughed, they inexplicably felt a lot better. In their opinion, Qin Hao could not be a match for Duan Shuilu. There must be something strange, or perhaps Qin Hao had used some underhanded means to win. Huang Tianba and the others did not stand face to face with Qin Hao on the life and death ring, so they did not know how terrifying Qin Hao was. Of course, they did not believe Bai Lang's words. Believe it or not, in short, it has nothing to do with you. Get out of my way. Qin Hao warned for the last time. This time, he came to see Elder Zhen and then kill Mu Chunfeng. As for the small fries in front of him, Qin Hao was not even interested in fighting with them. What's the noise? Chapter 649. Greetings, Elder Mu. Greetings, Elder Mu and the other elders. Greetings, Registrar Mu. Everyone bowed, including Huang Tianba and the other two. Their attitudes were unusually respectful. Mu Chunfeng had been promoted by Dan Ge from an ordinary elder to the Registrar of External Affairs. His position was above the other elders. Moreover, he was the chief examiner of the competition. Of course, with his strength of the mysterious sage realm, he was only a rank 5 alchemist. More importantly, he was very experienced as a rank 5 alchemist. He had a unique understanding of the theory of medicinal herbs and alchemy technique. Obviously, the younger generation could not compare to him. Father. Mu Xiangtian walked up to Mu Chunfeng happily. In an instant, he radiated a different temperament and became high and mighty. It was as if his father was the emperor who ruled the world and Mu Xiangtian had become the crown prince of Dango. It was also at this moment that Huang Tianba and the other elders' attitude toward Mu Xiangtian became much more cordial. Mu Chunfeng nodded and looked at Mu Xiangtian with undisguised gratification. He admired his adopted son very much. In the future, when he groomed him, Mu Xiangtian's position in Dangu would not be inferior to his own. Why are you quarreling? Mu Chunfeng asked with his hands behind his back. This person wants to challenge Dangu. I don't know why. Mu Xiangtian pointed at Qin Hao and laughed mockingly. I want to see an elder of internal affairs to fulfill our agreement. I want to provide him with the elixir formula and teach him the secret of alchemy. When meeting his enemy, Qin Hao obviously would not be nice to him. However, this was not the time to fall out with him. Hence, he said flatly, according to the agreement, Qin Hao should indeed sign an agreement with Elder Zhen for the next batch of elixirs. Moreover, he did not know how much money he had earned from selling the Saint Spirit elixirs. Hence, he had to collect his debt this time. Ha ha! Is this kid crazy? He wants to see the Elder of Internal Affairs? He wants to teach his weak alchemy skills to the Elder of Internal Affairs of Dango? What a shameless boast! He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He is obviously an idiot. He has no sense of shame at all. Hurry up and drive him away. He is an eyesore. Everyone laughed. Huang Tianba waved his hand, as if he was a beggar, and ordered the disciples of Mad Dragon Academy to drive Qin Hao away. Elder of Internal Affairs? Young man, do you know where you are? Mu Chunfeng pulled a long face and pointed at the big plaque hanging at the entrance of the hall behind him. On it were the words Elixir Pavilion Headquarters, written in purple and gold. The words were written in a special way, and they looked like celestial smoke that was about to fly out of the wooden board. Moreover, there were a few domineering pictures of cauldrons carved at the corner of the plaque. Noble aura. Dan Go. Qin Hao said coldly. Since you know it's the Pill Pavilion and you're not an alchemist, what right do you have to meet the Internal Affairs Elder? Mu Chunfeng waved his sleeves. Want to see the Elder of Internal Affairs? That was a fool's dream. Even Mu Chunfeng had to make an appointment if he wanted to see the Elder of Internal Affairs. Especially Elder Zhen, who was the busiest in internal affairs. Meeting him was harder than ascending to heaven. Father, please wait. Since he wants to see the Elder of Internal Affairs, I will grant him a chance. Mu Xiangtian pointed to a high platform in the middle of the square and said to Qin Hao provocatively, "Get on the platform and participate in the sacred alchemy competition with me. If you can refine a 4th-grade pill, you can become Danji's alchemist. At that time, you will be qualified to see the Elder of Internal Affairs. How about it? Do you dare to compete with me in alchemy in front of Miss Xing? Mu Xiangtian said impatiently. Looks like I have no choice but to compete. Qin Hao shook his head helplessly. It was so troublesome to meet Ahua. Elder Zhen's name was Zhen Kaihua. In private, Qin Hao had always called him Ahua. Qin Hao, this is the opportunity I'm giving you. It's also the opportunity you've been looking for. It's also your last chance. I hope you don't disappoint me. Seeing Qin Hao shake his head and sigh, Mu Xiangtian was even more confident. All right, I'll reluctantly compete with you. Qin Hao could only nod and agree. He had to get Dan Ji's alchemist qualification certificate first and become a member of Dan Ji's team. Actually, as long as he showed the overturning ground seal, there would be no need to go through so much trouble. He was just afraid that Mu Xiangtian would not believe him and accuse Qin Hao. At that time, Qin Hao might not be able to see the Elder of Internal Affairs. He might even be accused of theft. Ha ha ha, you're finally not a coward anymore. Next, I'll crush you in front of Miss Xing. Mu Xiangtian looked at Xing affectionately, hoping to get an encouraging look from her. Since you want to compete, young master, do your best. Xing only had Qin Hao in her eyes and encouraged him with a smile. Mu Xiangtian felt his chest tighten and a trace of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. Little brother, are you all right? Huang Tianba asked in concern. He wanted to show Mu Chunfeng that he had a passionate relationship with his son. I'm fine. Mu Xiangtian clenched his fists and swore to make Qin Hao suffer a crushing defeat. He then said to the crowd, "Let's go, everyone. We'll go to the genius platform together and test our cultivation this year. Let's see who has improved the most. Then, we'll decide who is the champion before my adoptive father and uncles." The competition this time was divided into 2 arenas. On the high platform was the arena for geniuses. The participants were people like Huang Tianba, who came from the 4 great academies. There were also people from other sects and some outstanding alchemists from the Pill Pavilion's branch hall. As for the others, they had to compete below the high platform. It was like setting up a stall. It was very lowly. The arenas below the high platform were ordinary arenas. The participants in the ordinary arenas clearly had no future, so the most exciting place was naturally the genius platform. Letting this person go to the genius platform with us is simply an insult to my status. Ren Xiaoyao from the 10 Directions Academy was extremely dissatisfied, but he did not refuse. After all, Mu Xiangtian was Mu Chunfeng's adoptive son. He then walked towards the high platform angrily. "Sir, I hope you won't embarrass yourself too much. You can't even refine a trash pill with impurities." Yi Ziming shook his head at Qin Hao and pretended to sympathize with him. However, the sneer at the corner of his mouth showed that he looked down on Qin Hao. "Come, kid. Show me your talent. Let's see if you can refine the worst pill." Ha ha! Huang Tianba and Mu Xiangtian also laughed and left. "Sigh, my son is loyal to his friends. However, he has the same style as me when it comes to showing off. Since that's the case, please take your seats. Let us see the potential of our juniors." Mu Chunfeng smiled and exchanged glances with the 4 elders in charge of external affairs. Then they all sat in the judge's seat. He Qin Hao, look. I, Bai Lang, am the one who put in a good word for you. I'll give you a chance to perform. You have to do your best. I won't keep you company. Ha ha ha, the competition was about to begin. Bai Lang mocked Qin Hao and then walked down the high platform to the northern area. Even with Bai Lang's qualifications, he could only stay in the most ordinary northern area. Even so, he did not know if he could make a name for himself. Fortunately, even if he embarrassed himself, not many of his fellow disciples would know. Qin Hao was different. If Qin Hao could not even refine a first-grade pill, he would lose the dignity of the entire Scarlet Sun inner courtyard. At that time, he, the first on the heaven ranking, would not be able to stand in the inner courtyard. He might even be expelled from the inner courtyard. This was Bai Lang's viciousness. "You're just a clown. I hope you don't die too early," Qin Hao said coldly. Then he walked toward the center of the genius stage. His steps were steady. He did not show the slightest bit of fear under the gazes of tens of thousands of people. Instead, he seemed to be enjoying it. After all, before he became Dendi, he had also participated in such a grand alchemist competition. He had stood out in the competition and created one miracle after another. For example, all the peerless pills in the continent were created by Qin Hao. Qin Hao's alchemy skills had been studied by many alchemists. In the end, not many people could successfully imitate him. Today's grand alchemy competition made Qin Hao feel a little nostalgic. "Young master, wait a moment. Do you have a furnace?" Just as Qin Hao went up the stage, Xing Er called out to him from behind. Qin Hao turned around and saw Xing Er's anxious eyes. The people who came to the competition all prepared their furnaces in advance. Furthermore, they were all good furnaces. Chapter 650. If Qin Hao could not even bring out a furnace for the competition, he would definitely be laughed at by many alchemists. That would be very embarrassing. Qin Hao smiled and wanted to tell Xing Er, "Don't worry, I have a furnace." Mu Xiangtian spoke first. He stood on the stage and shook his head, sighing, "Aya, this is beyond my expectations. It's normal for someone who doesn't know alchemy to not have a furnace. It's my fault that I didn't prepare a furnace for you beforehand. That's why I only have one furnace on me. Speaking of which, my furnace is extremely precious. Everyone, please take a look at it." As he spoke, Mu Xiangtian waved his hand and a beam of light shot out. A furnace flew out of his spatial ring and landed on the pill table in front of him. The furnace glowed brightly and was engraved with a Tai Chi diagram. The light spun around the Tai Chi diagram, looking very mysterious and dazzling. "It's actually the Tai Chi 8 trigrams purple gold furnace." At the judges' table, one of the elders, Dan Gu, exclaimed in surprise. He also looked at the head examiner, Mu Chunfeng, in disbelief. The Tai Chi 8 trigrams purple gold furnace was Mu Chunfeng's furnace. He had used 100,000 contribution points to exchange for it from Dan Ji's treasury. Not only was it extremely precious, but it was also the only one of its kind. He had actually passed it down to his adopted son. The other three elders were also shocked. "Everyone, please don't be surprised. Although Xiangtian is my adopted son, I have always treated him like my own. In the future, he will inherit my legacy. Giving him the furnace to participate in the competition is a bit of a bully. I'm really sorry." Mu Chunfeng smiled hypocritically. With the Tai Chi purple gold furnace, Mu Xiangtian's primordial fire consumption would be greatly reduced. Moreover, the success rate of refining pills would be higher. The profoundness of this was not something that could be explained in a short time. Even if he did not accept it, no one present dared to look down on this furnace. Many alchemy contestants even looked at Mu Xiangtian with envy. They wished they could become Mu Chunfeng's son. Uncle Chunfeng's Tai Chi purple gold furnace is indeed extraordinary, but our Huang family is not to be trifled with. Huang Tianba saw this and did not want to be left behind. He also showed his furnace. In terms of appearance, his furnace could not be compared to the Tai Chi purple gold furnace. Huang Tianba's furnace was the size of a water bucket. It was round and pitch black like an egg made of gunpowder. It looked rough and heavy. Could this be the heirloom of Huang Yaoshi's family, the Black Wind Furnace of Good Fortune? On the referee's seat, a Pill Pavilion elder recognized him. Ha ha, that's right. It's our family's Black Wind Good Fortune furnace. My father gave it to me yesterday. Huang Tianba proudly raised his head. His furnace was not any worse than Mu Xiangtian's. The Blackwind Furnace of Good Fortune was engraved with wind spirit inscriptions, as well as spirit arrays. When refining elixirs, the chi of elixir wind could be generated spontaneously. It could also greatly enhance the quality of the elixir refined, and even allow one to refine elixirs of a higher level. Brother Huang is really generous. You even gave your family's heirloom to nephew Tianba. Mu Chunfeng said with some pressure. There was a hint of jealousy in his words. For him to be jealous of a junior, it was obvious just how bad his character was. It was just like how he had been jealous of Dan Xian's alchemy ability 40 years ago. The Black Wind Good Fortune Furnace is good, but I, Ren Xiaoyao, am not easy to deal with. Everyone, please take a look. Ren Xiaoyao also made his move. With a flick of his sleeve, an alchemy furnace carved with auspicious patterns of dragons and phoenixes flew out from his sleeve. The moment the alchemy furnace appeared, the sound of dragons and phoenixes faintly sounded in the arena. It was very auspicious and noble. Wow, it can't be the dragon flying phoenix furnace, right? It is said that this furnace has the spirituality of spiritual beasts. The elixirs refined will have the spiritual energy of spiritual beasts. It is very beneficial to Yuan cultivators. It is said that this furnace has been lost for a long time. I didn't expect it to fall into the hands of the dean of the inner yard of Shifang Academy. There was a lot of discussion in the audience. Ren Xiaoyao's father was the dean of the inner yard of Shifang Academy. He was also an outstanding alchemist. Suddenly, Ren Xiaoyao proudly raised his nose. Haha, in that case, Yi Ziming will not hide it. I will also take out my trump card to compare with everyone. Yi Ziming said coldly, but he did not take out the furnace. Instead, he lifted his robe and pulled out a pair of gloves from his crotch. These gloves were very unusual. They were golden and dazzling, blinding the eyes of a group of people. While speaking, Yi Ziming put on the gloves, then shook them and nodded. He felt very comfortable. These are elixir forging alchemy gloves? It is said that wearing these gloves does not require an alchemy furnace at all. They can completely gather fire to form elixirs. Because the medicinal materials are closest to the palm, their ability to absorb fire far surpasses that of an alchemy furnace. Refining elixirs with these gloves can greatly increase the speed. Oh my God, today is really an eye-opener. In an instant, the entire arena was in an uproar. The competition had not yet begun, but the contestants on the Genius platform had all taken out unusual treasured alchemy furnaces, which made the audience look forward to it even more. They wanted to see whether the Taiji Purple Gold Furnace or the Black Wind Good Fortune Furnace was better. There was also the Dragon Flying Phoenix Furnace or the Elixir Forging Alchemy Gloves that were better. Accompanied by the discussion, Xing in the audience could not help but look more nervous and clench her small hands. The competition had not yet begun, but the pressure and difficulty of the opponents had already invisibly suppressed Qin Hao. Not to mention that Qin Hao did not have a suitable furnace at the moment. Even if he did, how could he be a match for these treasures and gloves? Elders, respected contestants, I am Qiyang Bai Lang. I also have an alchemy furnace. Although it is not as good as the four big brothers, it can barely catch your attention. Everyone, please take a look. Bai Lang's hoarse shout came from the northern area. The audience could not help but look over. Then, they saw Bai Lang take out a white alchemy furnace and place it on the alchemy table. It was as flawless as white jade. Just based on its appearance, it was indeed extraordinary. What kind of furnace is this? Could it be made of jade? Using jade to refine elixirs. Several Dangu elders looked at each other, feeling that this was very novel. That's right. My family specializes in jade trading, so I spent a lot of money to hire a 7th-grade blacksmith to forge this jade artifact. The jade embryo of this furnace is naturally formed from 1,000-year-old heavenly mountain snow jade. Next, Bai Lang explained the furnace's function in detail. In terms of function, it was not any weaker than the alchemy furnace of the contestants on the Genius platform. It's actually refined by a 7th-grade alchemy master. It's really a rare treasure. If I'm lucky enough to get it, I'll definitely become a 4th-grade alchemy master. If this jade furnace falls into your hands, it'll be an insult to furnaces. There was a lot of discussion below the stage, and they were envious of Bai Lang again. Many people were willing to pay a sky-high price to buy Bai Lang's furnace. I'm sorry, everyone. From today onwards, this furnace will be listed as my family heirloom. I'll pass it down to my son, and my son will pass it down to my grandson, so I won't sell it no matter how much money you give me. But then again, even an inconspicuous character like me has such an awesome furnace. This furnace has always been the number 1 on the heaven ranking in the inner yard, so it definitely won't disappoint you, right, Qin Hao? Ha. Actually, after saying so much, Bai Lang only had one goal, which was to crush Qin Hao in material terms and make him look bad. He wanted to raise his own status and attract people's attention. However, he had achieved his goal. At this moment, everyone's gazes gathered on Qin Hao again. They all wanted to see what qualifications this new number 1 on the heaven ranking in the inner yard of Scarlet Sun Academy had to gain a foothold on the Genius platform. Young master, Xing said nervously. Aside from being anxious, her eyes were filled with intense killing intent. She wanted to kill Bai Lang immediately. The other party was clearly mocking Qin Hao. It's fine. Actually, I wanted to say that I have a furnace. Look, Qin Hao did not care about the gazes of the 10,000 people. He smiled and calmly took out the small alchemy furnace from his spatial ring. This small alchemy furnace gave off a simple and old green luster. Some parts of it were bumpy, and some of its color had even faded. There were also scratches. This was the first small gift that Dan Xian gave Qin Hao when he broke through to the essence-gathering realm. Thinking back to that time, it was filled with the care of that sloppy old man. What the hell is this? You call this an alchemy furnace? The number 1 on the Scarlet Sun heavenly ranking wouldn't use this kind of junk to participate in the sacred Dan Go competition, right? This is an insult to Dan Ge's sacred competition. He doesn't even have a decent furnace. I think we should just kick him out. Qin Hao's performance caused many alchemists to be dissatisfied. In the eyes of the other contestants, Dan Ge's triennial competition was sacred. For the sake of the competition, who would not pay a high price in advance to search for precious alchemy furnaces, this was the only way to prove the respect an alchemist had for the competition. On the other hand, Qin Hao clearly looked down on such a sacred competition. Especially Huang Tianba and the others standing beside Mu Xiangtian. Their faces were distorted with anger. Qin Hao took out a piece of junk from the trash can. He actually wanted to compete with their furnace of good fortune, Dragon Phoenix furnace, and core forging glove. He was looking down on everyone. Bai Lang, who was in the crowd, laughed even more excitedly. Fellow alchemists, the beauty and ugliness of a furnace cannot prove the quality of a person's furnace, nor can it prove the ability of an alchemist. For an alchemist, external tools are very important, because special alchemy furnaces can greatly improve the quality of our alchemy. However, don't forget that they are only helping us. The essence of alchemy is still in the person's body. A truly powerful alchemist will never care about what kind of furnace they have in their hand. Even if they have a broken bowl, it will not change their confidence in the quality of their pills. Qin Hao was neither angry nor discouraged. He was neither servile nor overbearing. Every word was like gold as he expressed his understanding of alchemy. His theory immediately caused quite a stir. In the past, people thought that the most important thing for an alchemist was the furnace. The furnace affected the quality of the pills, but they often neglected themselves. What were they? They were alchemists. Furnaces were just furnaces. Furnaces were not alchemists. These words would deeply influence dozens of generations in the future. Instantly, the place fell silent.